wrong, man. It's just wrong. That's all there is to it. You got to sit down. You got to have a friggin' discussion. It can't be, we need 2 million people to leave right now or you're all going to be blown to bits. That is not a discussion. That is not a discussion. That's just my stance on it. Sorry. I can't countenance this. Unless you literally you pray to Kali Ma, right? And you get on your friggin' knees and you play to the, you are a death cult. That's what you want. You want death. Death, 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 death. If you don't do that, and if you got an open heart and love and spring in your step and joy in your heart, and you like to French kiss women you just met, then you are not doing that. Okay? You're not going to say, hey, let's do that. That's my take on it. That's why I wanted to look at other stuff. I'm like, I just can't do an atrocity horror show. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really sorry about that. I can't do that. Okay? I can't do an atrocity horror show. Nothing to do with YouTube, nothing else. It's because it disconnects your brain. I see people calling. I see Jordan Peterson calling. Bomb, 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 bomb. Great. Thank you. Fantastic work, bro. Thank you, Jordan Peterson. Right? Friggin' living prophet of the West. Calling to bomb everybody. Ben Shapiro, same thing. Right? We gotta, if you don't support Israel, then you support. But come on, guys. Is it so simple? Is it so black and white? Is it so black and white? I'm telling you, I like pretty women, Pan. Doesn't matter if they're what color they are. You know that.
Right.
That's the way it is.
No, for me, it's like I'm just simply not involved. I'm not Palestinian. I'm not Jewish. I'm not here to pick sides. I'm not an activist. I'm not political. This is their problem. That's the way I see it. And like you're talking, the desensitization. Absolutely. You can't get away from it if you go on Twitter, social media. We kind of want to be an escape away from that for people
Absolutely.
that like war campaign.
This is what
For
it
me,
is.
I can't even say what I want to say about it. Like people don't want to hear my opinion on this stuff, right? And so it's better to avoid the topic altogether instead of risking getting this channel kicked, first of all, right? So, and people are not, no one's going to agree. It's nothing but fighting and hysteria at this point. So why not focus on something that may have an impact on your country that isn't just a distraction or just getting you to want to give money or pulling at your heartstrings for sympathy like that. There are other things you need to pay attention to, I think.
For me, it's the atrocity shit show. It's a distraction. It's the lack of sense in the sense of you got to sit down. You have to sit down. You have to talk. You got to come up with a better idea than just killing each other. You just got to, right? And the international community and people over there and everybody's got to do that. And if you don't do that, then this is what you're going to get: total war. That's what it is. You want to send your sons and daughters to foreign nations to do what exactly? We haven't learned nothing from all these other globalist wars that have been going on for ages. We haven't learned nothing. Hey, maybe we haven't. Maybe you need to send your sons and daughters, but I ain't doing that. That's all there is to it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not sending them. Sorry. My children are not dying for bankers' wars. They're not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'll die. I'll send my children to die for this country. For this country, this land, Canada. Not India, Canada. I'll defend it, and I'll defend the people of my own country and my locality. That's it. That's where I draw the line. Sorry. I know, that's, I got a small mind, I guess, but that's just what it is. Anyways, I thought this was interesting over here regarding New Zealand First, because it shows a populist party going from 0 seats to 8 seats. And that has an effect, direct effect on possibly it has at least some signs to where things are changing within our own country, Canada, right, or the U.S., or any, the UK, or even in the Netherlands, right? The fact that you can have a party in a country that has 0 seats in 2020 and in 2023 has 8 seats. That's interesting to me. I don't know, maybe that's just me. That's interesting to me, right? Because they want to take away our power, and people, your individual power, right? They want to take away your individual power and tell you there's no way you can affect any kind of change. And I've probably been guilty of it to some degree as well, right? It's very easy to become disillusioned completely. But I think the clown show is coming to a little bit of an end. We got this guy over here, Wesley Yang. He's a big-time Twitter guy, and he's just noticed this video that we've seen here in Canada before. I mean, this is from months and months ago. Is it Halloween? Halloween is coming up in about 14 days, if you'd be so kind.
What is this?
Right.
Okay, so Wesley Yang on X Twitter says, not a comedy sketch, an actual Canadian government press conference. Wow. What is this freak show?
Yeah, this was, I remember we covered this at when this happened, but this was the NDP.
The topic that brings us here is deadly serious. The rise of hate and violence facing the 2S LGBTQI+ communities, including the drag artists, happening across Ontario and right in the nation, has...
These threats and intimidation tactics are very real and happening all around us to people we love and care about.
Is that Gwen Stefani?
Sorry, I'm so sorry. But you know what? People are seeing the clown show, right? You can't fool everybody all the time. Not a comedy sketch. So international people are seeing this. 25,000 likes on this. This guy Wesley Yang, putting this out there again. So interesting, very interesting to see. Very interesting to see. And if you ever thought, hey, this Israeli stuff, this is some heavy duty stuff. We should. Well, you know what? Maybe we'll cover it. Here, I'll give you a little video right over here. We'll cover a little bit for you. All right, here we go.
לטני פלייר זה בסדר כי זה מה שהיא אוהבת יכולה לסמוך עליי
Oh yeah.
יכולה לסמוך עליי לא יכולה לסמוך עליך היא עד הדלת אני פלייר זה בסדר כי זה מה שהיא אוהבת יכולה לסמוך עליי יכולה לסמוך עליך יכולה
This is retarded.
All right, I'm just saying. You wanted some Israeli content? I gave you some Israeli content. Put that right in your back hole, right? Yes. Yes. Even RFK coming out, man, 100%. Right? Even RFK. Let's see a little bit of RFK, right? I know everybody's doing it. I'll give you a little bit.
Is he doing backflips for Israel?
Yeah, here he is, right? Yeah, backflip for Israel. Here we go.
I'm not, I would describe myself, I'm anti-war. Everybody's anti-war. But there's wars that are not wars of choice. And those kind of wars are like World War II. We were attacked at Pearl Harbor, and we need to respond. The Ukraine war is a war of choice. We shouldn't be in it. And we look for wars of choice. What's happening in Israel is not a war of choice. Oh, I support Israel, and I'll tell you why. Israel is our oldest partner for 75 years.
Okay, so here we go. So 100%, that's what you support. You can support a country that is defending themselves. You can support a country that is defending their borders and everything else without supporting all their actions that they're doing. I know this is very complicated, but I'm going to try to break it down, right? You could say, hey, nobody in your country should be being killed by terrorists. That's absolutely unconscionable. It is an atrocity. It's tragedy. But we don't support revisiting an atrocity on then a population that is not necessarily the same people who are doing this to you, right? Or your collective punishment, in other words, right? Collective punishment, that's a term. I didn't want to really touch on this, but I'll tell you a little bit here, right? And I guess I'll give you a collective punishment I did at my house. So for about 2 years, there was an FU carved into my staircase outside, right? I have a little staircase to my side of my house. And I lined up all my kids, and I said, who did this? And they wouldn't tell me who did it, right? Literally carved in, right, with a pen knife, pocket knife, FU. And I made them, every one of them were crying, tears streaming down their face, and I'm like, nobody's leaving. Nobody's leaving. Which one of you carved that and you're going to tell me? And they're crying and they're like, my kid, right, my 12-year-old kid who's a little bit of a, anyways, and they're like, it's him, it's him. And I'm like, say it was you. Swear to me. But he won't tell me. And I just said, oh, you're all going to stand here. And I psychologically applied so much pressure to them and their tears are streaming down their faces. And 2 years later, right, my 12-year-old is now, he's 12, and he owned up to it, and he's like, you know what, it was me. But I punished them all collectively. Was it right? Probably not.
You carpet bombed all of them just to get one.
I'm not blameless. That's all I'm saying. I'm not blameless. I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect person. Sorry. I'm just not a perfect person. Just not a perfect person. All right, here we go. Got a little bit of rebellion right here for you, Pat. What do we see here?
So we're moving on from the collateral damage that your children suffered. Anti-taxer, do the world a favor. If you see free COVID tests at the checkout, ask for a few of them, then walk outside and throw them out.
Wow, look at that. There you go. A little bit of rebellion in the morning. You see that? Take a free test, throw it the F out. There you go. I thought that was interesting. I like that, you know. Personally, for me, I'm not even picking them up, but I thought that was funny. There you go. Hit that like button, you Yahoo says angry Canadians. Angry Canadian. Hail the chat. Hail, brother. Thank you for being here. And you know what? Like I said, we're not going to be doing the atrocity show, but we will be looking at other things and trying to, you know, I know people are talking about ArriveCan. They're talking about the cost of ArriveCan. I don't think the cost matters. I believe with ArriveCan that these guys came out and they already pre-planned this stuff, which is why they were able to put out that software and that application way ahead of time. It's not about the cost. I don't care about the cost. I care about the fact that our civil liberties were stripped. So we're going to look at other things. We're not going to just fall into the trap of the mainstream media pushing atrocity porn at us 24/7, confusing us, making us lost, making us pick a side, making us hate our brothers and sisters of this country because we have different opinions about some foreign conflict. Hail the chat. Hail, brethren. Thank you so much for being here.
Yo, what's up? What's up, Enrique? Thanks, bro. Yo, thanks, Moonraker. Thanks, bro. Appreciate that, homie. Pardon me.
You know, so research for yourself what's actually happening. But you know, it's a little bit too hardcore. We call ourselves a war campaign, but you got to understand, we come from comics. You know, we want to have fun. You know, so I know we've been doing the news, but we don't want to dwell on stuff like that. You can find out what's happening. So I think we all agree on it.
Yeah, and you know what I mean? It's pretty simple for me, okay? Anybody who's killing kids, that's wrong. That's all there is to it. I don't need the news, I don't need the media to tell me that you shouldn't be doing things like that, that you shouldn't be hurting innocent people. That is, or that in an attempt to root out, you know, evil, that you go out and you indiscriminately kill. That is just wrong. That's all there is to it. It is absolutely wrong. And anybody who doesn't understand that, I think you got to have something, a screw loose. You can have political capture over your mind, right? There's something called political capture where your mind, when you spend so much time on the internet, you see everything through this lens where you're not able to see anymore what's actually right and wrong, and it's about what side am I on. And I see this, there's the PPC coming out, Maxime Bernier talking about, we got to focus on the issues here in Canada. In this case, I agree with him. I think he was pushing this, this cultural Marxism, banging that drum too hard in the sense of, again, it's about division. It's always about the division, right? Whether there's a homo or there's a hetero, I just couldn't care less about any of it. At the end of the day, I care about this country. I care about, and for me, it's Canada, right? If you're in the States, it's the U.S. that you care about. You care about your locality. You care about your own people. That's what I care about. I care about my family. It's very hard for me, A, to understand anything that's actually going on with the fog of war, the lies, the nonsense in other countries. I've seen things like Palestinian protests be termed as protests in support of Hamas unconditionally for any kind of terrorism and deaths of innocents, which is insane to me, right? It's insane to me to say that. It's at the same time, I don't want to see any of this stuff here. I don't care, I don't care. So I want to make this show about a couple big issues here going on. New Zealand, right? So New Zealand has had a major change of government, kind of signaling a huge change in the winds, right? The winds of political winds are changing. We see the same thing happening here in Canada, with the support for the Liberals dropping continuously. We see a beautiful Jewish lady, Suzanne Summers, okay, good, really famous for her massive boobies, who has actually unfortunately passed. But I want to kind of give a little ode here to her, to this fine, and I think this is probably the political part we'll do, Pan. We'll talk about.
Okay.
Yeah, Suzanne Summers. Summers, of course, a Jewish name, a Jew name. So let's just see here for just a moment, okay? I want to have a moment of peace and recollection for a famous Jewish lady. Let's see if we can just get a little bit here, okay? And I don't want to look at pictures of her old. That's another thing here. I want to just make that clear. I'm not interested in old pictures of Suzanne Summers. Do you know what I mean? Pan, that's just not something I want to do. Yeah.
No, go back to the glory days of Three's Company, Rip Thigh Master.
Okay, here it is, beauty, right? Beauty, absolute beauty. You love it or leave it, whatever you want to think about Israel, they created this beauty, and that's just an amazing thing. That is absolutely amazing over here. I want to say that, life ends for everybody, and people, women try to sometimes kind of cling on to that, the last vestiges of, vestige actually the name of our comic book, the last vestiges of beauty, but beauty is not always just skin deep, right? It can be more than that. It can be in the funny way that you put on a show, the funny way that you, your attitude on Three's Company, right? Ritter, of course, a German name, and I want to just kind of say this is like a peace thing here, right? Okay, you got a German man, Ritter, right? His name was, what's his name? George Ritter?
John Ritter? Yeah.
John Ritterhouse, okay, famous famous American who defended at a protest. And here he is, right, in German with Suzanne Summers, a Jew lady, and of course this French Canadian. I'm not sure, she looks like a French Canadian.
And he's not trying to exterminate any of them,
No,
so it's quite nice.
It is. Okay, so that's the peace that you can have in the Middle East. I want to put that out there. You can have this kind of peace. One German, one French Canadian, one Israeli woman. Beautiful. Okay? That's the kind of peace you can have. I know it sounds nuts. I know it sounds crazy. But let that be a lesson to all of us, to aim for something higher. All right? Let's look at New Zealand, because these guys are going absolutely. Yes. Pardon
You
me?
showed those pictures of Suzanne. Did she get naked in Playboy, or did she just do a cover?
I don't know. I don't know if I want
I think if you make the cover, like, you probably were naked inside. I bet. I haven't seen it myself.
Everyone should go back and you say you want to recollect a beautiful lady. I think that's the issue you should check out then. Let me know if she gets naked, and I'll go check it out.
You know what? I'm a happily married man. I just can't. I just want to put that out there, right? I'm so tired of this war stuff. You know that? I'm so tired, and I'm tired of seeing it in the streets. I don't even want to do this search, but I'm just going to show you a little bit, right? I'm just going to show you, okay? Oh man, just for like 1 second here, just so you can see what's going on over here. right? Just 1 second. It's just so sickening to me, right? It's in the streets of the West, these massive protests, and they're allowed to protest. I see people even on the freedom side saying, hey, this is a pro-terrorist protest. They shouldn't be allowed to protest this and that. I mean, holy shit, guys, have we not learned anything from freedom at all? From pushing for freedom, it's that everybody should be allowed to peacefully protest. That is enshrined, absolutely enshrined in, in the Canadian Charter, the Bill of Rights, American Constitution. It's a natural right for humans to assemble. It really is, it is one of the most core rights, whatever you think of these people, right? There's a guy I listen to, he's a wigger, right? His name is Tom McDonald. I like listening to his music, right, when I'm drinking. You know him, Pat?
No.
Okay,
but
yeah.
I know what a wigger is.
You know what a wigger is? Okay, so Gad is actually a wigger. Gad, if you could just do a bit of raps for
I
us.
just want to let you know Tom McDonald is not a wigger.
No?
Who's Tom McDonald?
He's like a wannabe horrible rapper. He's like horrible.
I like him, dude.
It's like the worst. He raps about politics. It makes me want to throw up.
What?
Yeah.
It makes you want to throw up.
Political rapper. Tom McDonald had a farm.
You're ruining
No,
perfectly good rap music with politics.
I don't know about that, man. I don't know if he makes you want to throw up. I kind of like him. I really do. I think he's all right, man. I think he's a decent fellow. He's funny.
Is he Canadian?
No, he's not. Is he Canadian? Everybody that you like usually these days is Canadian.
Yeah, like I find out all the time, like, some actor or some personality, from back in the day or currently or whenever.
Okay.
I hear they're Canadian. Like, that guy's Canadian, man. I didn't know. He's cool. I like that guy.
Yeah.
Then you find out he's a Canadian. You like him even more.
Then you find out he's a great Canadian. Yeah. I was just fixing something there on my computer screen. It was not working correctly. Anyhow, so I listened to him, and he's got, what does he say there? There's a line that I was listening to, right? What was it now? What were we talking about? We weren't talking about Suzanne Summers' boobs.
The chat is saying he is Canadian.
He is Canadian? Everybody you like is Canadian, right? That's something that you're just starting to find out, right? Everybody you like is Canadian. You recently told me there's another fellow that you found out was Canadian, Pan.
Yeah, I forget who it was right now, but I mean, it seems to happen all the time,
Okay, right. Anyways, but forgetting about all that, the point I'm trying to make here, the big point is everybody has the right to assemble. I don't care whatever they're assembling about. It's not, and I think, I didn't want to do this, but it's like I'm kind of doing it. You ever feel like you shouldn't do something and then you do it, but I'll do it.
All the time.
Yeah, I did not want to do this. I did want to do this, man. I didn't want to do this. I wanted to lull, but I'm going to do this. Okay? Because it's got to be said. It's like children dying in Palestine. It's wrong. Children dying in Israel. It's wrong. You should not kill anybody on either side. That's wrong. And then to say, like, this is it, man. There's so much tragedy. And how are we going to over here solve this? By funding and stacking cash into these people's hands. It's crazy talk. It's absolute crazy talk. I only recently found this. 20% of the budget, Israeli defense budget, is from the U.S., right? I'm just going to do the search here just to see if I can get a reference, okay? So here it is. It is the United States committed over $3.3 billion in foreign assistance to Israel in 22, the most recent year for which data exists. Foreign aid. And, there's so many. How big is Israel's military? How much funding does it? That's from Al Jazeera. But let's ignore them, right? Because they got a name like a terror name, so we're going to ignore them completely. U.S. foreign aid to Israel, updated March 1st, 2023, by the Congressional Research Service. And I don't know. You can go into this. Oh yeah, there's a lot of spyware, right? They're really good at software, by the way. Hugely good. The RCMP Pegasus zero-day exploits that they used against us, right? So if you go RCMP Pegasus, okay, so what was this? This is spyware that they were using zero-day exploits on Canadian citizens over here, and I know they had used Israeli zero-day exploits. So what that means is zero-day exploit is an exploit on your phone that has not yet been patched. Okay, so it hasn't been patched. It means that there is. So Pegasus is one such technology which was created by an Israeli cyber surveillance company called NSO Group. Yeah, okay, so I didn't even know that Pegasus itself, it wasn't just using zero-day exploits from Israel, but it was created by an NSO group, at least according to the CDC here. I'm just going to do a quick search here and show you this.
Yeah, see, I remember I saw Rogan and they had the guy on there that was talking about it. I don't know, it was years ago, right? And he was explaining the whole process of how it works. Yeah, man, the guy actually used this, these exploits, right, in order to do this type of spy work. And he was on giving an interview with Rogan. It was pretty interesting. People want to go look at it. Can't remember his name, but it probably shouldn't be hard to find.
Okay, so RCMP has used spyware to access targets. So what the zero-day to zero-click exploit, what that means is that they target your phone. Let's say you got a Samsung S9 like I got, S9. And I'm sitting there with my S9, and it's a little older phone, but I like it, okay? It's kind of small, it fits into my purse. And, maybe it's being patched. Actually, that one stopped receiving patches. But let's say I got a newer phone. Even if you got a newer phone, and there's certain exploits that have been found, holes in the software, then what they do is they'll create a zero-day, zero-click exploit, which targets your phone. Will send a specially crafted packet of data to your phone. At that point, it will open up, a root shell or something like that, where they can access all the data, pull everything off your phone remotely. And the Israelis are professionals at this. The core CPU, Intel core CPU, which really changed a lot of things, was created by an Israeli team. They got a lot of great engineers. My father actually worked there doing traffic light systems over there in Israel. He was very impressed with their engineers. I remember him coming back home and telling me about it. So, in any case, okay. I don't know where we're going here. I'm just saying it's wrong to kill everybody on any side. You know what I mean? I'm just saying it's wrong, and protests should be allowed in. It should be allowed anywhere. Come on, we haven't learned anything. They want to shut down all of our protests, saying that it was wrong for us to protest these unconstitutional mandates that stripping away our civil liberties. You can't see for a minute here that even if we don't like the protests, like even the homos, right? Okay, you see the homos, they're coming up, homo rights, I want to be homo, I love sucking dick, right? Okay, hey, cool, right? Fantastic. I'm happy for you. I'm really happy for you, but I just stay away. Just, if you don't like it, why you got to be there? My line is drawn like this, simple. Are you affecting my children? Are you bothering my family? Are you trying to get into their brains? Then I'm going to say no. That's where I would say the school board stuff is a big place. You go out and you say, hey, GTFO, okay, we don't want this in our curriculum. If you're a parent, you go and do that. You go and stop that. You say, no, that's where you make your voice heard. That's what you got to do. I've done a different style protest personally. I just taken my kids out of school, never put them in, so I do not have to show any. The minute you put them in Ontario in school, what happens there? As soon as you do that, every year you got to show what the kid is learning, what the kid is not learning. If you don't do that, they are going to be on your ass. CPS could get involved. You're not giving your children an education. So I knew this 20 years ago. So what did I do, right? Soraya, my wife and I, we just said we are never putting them in school. That's my protest. I could already see it going downhill. I did not want my kids brainwashed. And I wanted to keep them. It's not only that, right? Sorry to go off on this. Really doing stuff I don't want to do. It's because I want to be lighter. You know what I'm saying, Pan? I feel so weighed down.
Get it off your chest, and so people will know what to expect in coming episodes of Work Campaign.
Hell, brother, I appreciate it, man. Put it this way. Biggest protest I could do is I could see that the society itself wants to divide up my family. The smallest unit of society is the family. That's what it is. It's not the individual. They teach you and they tell you that you are an individual. Of course you're an individual, but the smallest unit of society is the individual. It's not. It's the smallest unit of society is the family. That absolute family, that the bonds between the siblings, the children that you have, right, who are going to help one another in as time, right, goes on. Right now you can already see it. Things are not going so well, right? Credit card debt is at an all-time high. I was just looking at this credit card debt over here in the USA. Okay, massive, crazy. All right, well here they're showing me the Canadian one. Oh, here it is. This is the one, CNBC. Credit card debt stands at a record nearly $1 trillion. All right, so and it's going up and up and up. The credit card debt. That's American credit card debt, Canadian, of course. We can look into that. I don't want to get off topic, but that is the massive problem facing us: is finances and the rest. Now, what do you do when it's hard to to buy groceries and it's hard to, feed your family. Well, you need to hunker down, bunker down with your family. That's what you need to do. Those are the people that at least you know what they're like, even if they're not necessarily always the best. I know what my brother is like. My brother's a dick. He knows I'm a dick. That's just what it is, okay? We know what each other's like. I know what my sister is like. I know what her husband is like. He wears a backpack in the house. But that is, and Pan, I know you're doing this. I know you do this. I know that you got your cousins over there. You got, you guys are part of a big, great family that has stayed together, and a logging family. And you tell me a little bit about that, brother, because you're doing it. You're living it.
Yeah, no, my grandfather and grandmother set it up. So, we have some family land, and we log it, and the whole family makes money. So, it's great. And my job is I'm the caretaker of the land. I watch the borders, make sure there's no naked dudes running in the woods and stuff like that. Clean up the roads when I need to and stuff like that. So, that's what it's all about.
That right there, how do you even reach this level, right? Instead of being at this tenuous level, I saw this new article as well, okay? This article about renters having tension, okay? Massive tension, right? Massive stress, and it's aging. I literally saw this. It's crazy, right? So here it is, okay? Home renters aging faster than smokers as the unemployed, study finds, right? I just saw this recently, 2 days ago.
And the unemployed.
Why? What are we seeing here?
The unemployed.
This is true.
I'm aging faster than
is if house prices just keep
all demographics of society.
Rates keep going up and
they
up
just
and up
hate
and
the
up.
unemployed, man.
They
hate the needs, bro.
That's also
They just the needs can't just stop winning,
man. Who knows
man.
what's going to happen with that? That's anybody's guess. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the only way that I know my own family
I'm
got out of
uninsurable.
the shithole is by
I'm near death. I'm unemployed, smoking the cannabis, dude. It's just like I'm uninsurable. It's over.
Maintain their families and maintain those bonds so that they wouldn't
It's just
fall
so
through the
ridiculous,
cracks.
bro. It's just
It's
too much.
easy to fall through the cracks of society.
It's too
We're seeing
easy,
that in
man.
Canada.
It's
We're
such
seeing that
power,
every day. We're
bro.
seeing that with the rise in tent cities, homeless people, food bank usage. Apart from the friggin' scams and everything else, we are seeing that. And then you got this bullshit all the friggin' time. Ukraine, Israel, literally taking Ukraine right here and swapping it out with Israel. And I got to get my mind. They're trying to take my fucking mind. That's why I'm pissed. I don't want to be pissed. I'm sorry, I don't. But they're trying to take my mind over. You know what I'm saying, Gat? I'm kind of pissed off about that, man. They're trying to take my mind over.
It works. It gets you so confused that they write articles that you just showed, and everyone forgets that aging isn't fucking caused by time. It's caused by the effects of gravity on your body, and then people don't even realize articles like that are fucking retarded. And then you're talking about being stuck in the political hole, being stuck in this, looking through this lens of being on the internet. Well, this is what we got. You just got that article that's telling you, because of where you live, even more so than smoking and living hard, that aging is going to affect by where you live, as opposed to the reality of it's the physical impact of gravity on your effing body. It has nothing to do with that. And people want to write articles like what you just showed because no one has anything to talk about. They're like, oh, we can talk about Israel and all this. Let's do something else, right? So they come up with nonsense like this, and then everyone believes it too.
It is, man. It's total nonsense. I mean, obviously there's cellular degradation, and the rest of the cells have a lifetime. Everything has a shelf life and a lifetime. That's just what it is. But what I feel right now is that they're attempting to capture my mind. Okay, I had to unfollow this one lady on Twitter, because she's just totally in this Israel hole. It's like every single Palestinian, every single Arab, every single person protesting against the children who have been collateral damaged, right? Murdered, collateral damage in Palestine. Every one of them is a terrorist, or they've been taught to be a terrorist from the beginning of day zero. I remember in 2001, right, in 9/11. After that, man, I would get stopped. I got stopped 3 times by cops. Right, for fucking nothing, no reason. I got stopped at 55 kilometers an hour in St. Joseph here in Ottawa, in the 60-kilometer zone. I'm driving my Ford Taurus, right, and I'm just driving, I'm chilling. And the guy literally stops me, and I would get this BS. Why do I have a beard? Stupid questions. Okay, so I'm not saying that, and I want to make it clear, Canada has probably the least racism that I've ever faced in anywhere, in any country I've traveled to. I actually faced more racism in the south of India because I speak a different language, right? where well, I don't really, but I mean, when I drink, I can kind of stumble my way through. Anyways, the point is that it's this insanity that has set upon people's minds, and we've forgotten all the real things in life, right? You're distracted from the fact that you can barely pay your bills, that your grocery costs are super high, that your energy costs, whether it's gasoline, whether it's your heating costs. I mean, you were telling me about your baseboard heating, right? That's going to be coming up in the winter months. This is a huge strain.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, that's a specific issue to me because I need a new furnace. But yeah, I mean, trying to heat your house to electric, I mean, it's tough to do in the wintertime. Electric, it goes up from, I don't know, a little over 100, 150 bucks a month to up over 300, almost 400 bucks to heat in the winter with electric. So yeah, it's an issue for me.
Okay, and I just found this out. I didn't even know, by a great guy, Robert Showers, Kerry, right? They were telling me about this. Okay. I didn't even know this because they came in my house and I was talking. We're having a great time. We're having a chill time. Brought some stuff for the kids, pineapples, right? Don't ask me why. Great people. Okay, we're having a good time, chilling, drinking, talking, eating, and I'm like, my mother says, "Hey, we need a new cord of wood this year, right? Because I got a wood-burning fireplace." And then Robert and Kara are like, "Hey, you know what? Are you even allowed that here?" I'm like, "What are you talking about allowed? I have a fucking fireplace. I'm burning wood." And then he tells me that in Montreal, you're not even allowed to burn wood.
Wow.
Okay, and I didn't even know this. Look at this over here. And anyways, if anyone asks, I don't burn wood. Okay, please don't report me to the stitch line. We got, you know what I'm saying? Look at this right over here. Montreal banned the use of residential wood burning appliances in 2018. Pan, what do you think of this, man? Wood burning is one of the main causes of wintertime smog, said the city officials.
Man. Yeah, I guess they want people to freeze to death. I mean, that's wild. I mean, out here, like, everybody burns wood. That's how you keep warm. Like, where I'm at, the Pacific Northwest, the energy prices are among some of the highest in the nation. So, I mean, not everybody can afford to heat their house with electricity. They gotta burn.
Can't even believe this. I cannot believe this. So this is the agenda, right? The Agenda 2030 stuff coming down the line. We know this. And all the friggin' time they're pumping this Israeli shit to us and Ukraine stuff to us continuously. These people, these supranational governments are meeting behind the scenes and we're not even talking about it. Klaus Schwab they've been continuing, man, the worldwide government summits. Okay, I'm going to show you this, World Government Summit. This has been continuing. And we're just sitting here, right? And I'm guilty of this too. I'm really guilty of this too. With my D in my hands, okay? And looking at Trudeau, right? I'm just looking at Trudeau and I'm like, lol, Trudeau. They bring a Nazi into Parliament and I'm not seeing what I'm supposed to be seeing because they're distracting me. They're friggin' distracting me, okay? And it's an atrocity horror show. Which child with the legs blown off and which father holding a dead child? I see this shit. I'm not kidding around, right? And I'm not a really huge sentimental guy. I mean, I love women. Obviously, a woman cries. I fall for it every time. I love them. But, that's my Achilles heel and kryptonite. But, and it was Tinfoil Hat Nick, right? Hell, brother. He was telling me about this, and I refused to look at it. He's like, I'm looking at this father, this Palestinian father holding his child, right? And he's just going through, and this is a guy who's done a lot of stuff in his own life, real stuff, real living, real hard stuff in his life, and it just hit him. And I refused to look at it. And there I was this morning scrolling through my X Twitter, right? My XXX Twitter. I'm scrolling through it, and I see this. It just happened, man. And I looked at some of the stuff, and I swear, man, my heart. I'm telling you, man. It's just too much. It's too much, and it's an atrocity horror show every friggin' day in social media. They're pumping it at me, and you're killing me, man. You're killing me. I'm a sentimental, loving person. You know what I mean? I love Punani, and meanwhile, these dudes are meeting up and pushing this shit, and they're doing this. You got all the Arabians over here. Check them out. The World Government Summit. They've been doing this. Every Arabian that you've ever seen in your life, getting together to push digital ID and the work environment of the future. There's one fellow over here. I was looking at him last night. I'll see if I can find it by scrolling through this, but they are big oil, right? Gat, you were saying it when I was talking to you about this last night.
Well, it's from every major industry that runs the planet. So, I mean, they got big oil on board, they've got big tech on board, they've got big pharma on board, they've got the industrial complex. And once you add throw in the bankers, you pretty much control what goes on in the world, right? So these are like 4 or 5 of the main entities that run the world behind the scenes that we're not even quite aware of how much control and influence they have even over our own governments, right? And so this is our actual problem. We have people setting policy that aren't part of our governments and are influencing policy at the highest levels only for their own financial gain. And so this is why we see the world the way it is right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely what's happening. It's that these supranational government, non-governmental, but supranational, outside of the government purview, outside of any kind of elections or anything we hold. We know all this. You've heard all this before. But I'm just saying that they're still doing it. Meanwhile, we got our dicks in our hands looking at what Trudeau's doing today. The guy's a friggin' puppet. And I'm going to say something, and you may not like it, but I don't think Pierre Poilievre is going to be any better. Is he going to be immediately better? Yes. 100% he's immediately going to be better. I believe immediately he will be better. There's no doubt. But we've seen it, right? I remember Doug Ford, okay? I actually met Doug Ford over here in New Orleans with my kids, right, when he was running. And I was like Kathleen Wynne, okay? This Hydra lesbian, a super Hydra lesbian, like massive, insane, crazy talking, just crazy, just super leftist. All right, who wanted? Yeah, she was just nuts. And here he was. He's like, man, he's Rob Ford's brother, and he's just He's just saying, hey, I'm just going to be normal. And then there you are, the guy's hand in glove with Trudeau. They're doing all this stuff, and you know everything they've done over the last couple of years. You got Detective Helen Gruce, who's still in that process right now, right? Detective Helen Gruce, who did that investigation to certain things that I can't name too much over here. Helen Gruce, you can look it up. Helen, H-E-L-E-N, Gruce, G-R-U-S, detective. Okay, they're trying to raise funding for her. I mean, I know no one's got cash. Okay, I get it. I'm just saying that's out there. You take a look at it, right? Because she went through an investigation in one of the most hardest times out there for all of us. So she was taken to task, right? Any good police officer who stood up, and there's a lot of bad police officers, a lot of good ones too, right? But some of these ones, right, who stood up, they have been pilloried, absolutely pilloried for this. And this is the times that we're living in. May you live in interesting times. 9 hours ago, they're still doing this. A blueprint for governments designing future cities. They're still pumping out this stuff. Now, these don't have a lot of views, but these guys are talking to each other behind the scenes, open air. It's not hidden. It's not in the Bilderberg conference, where Mr. Jones has to go in through the bushes to investigate. They're doing this in the open.
ولأننا جزء مهم من دبي الطموحة نتابع التوجهات العالمية في مجال العمل البلدي ونرسم سيناريوهات نطبقها.
I'm so sorry. I can't take you seriously when you're wearing a bed sheet. Is this Halloween? Is this Halloween?
He's a ghost for Halloween.
You know what I'm saying? Is this Halloween, bro? Okay, I got this meme for you. I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about here. You talk about Israel and Palestine and Ukraine all you want. Black Friday's coming up. Pan, if you'd be so kind, brother.
Black Friday sale. Dear Black Friday, we don't want TVs on sale. We already have TVs. We want groceries on sale.
Yes! I got a chest freezer, okay? Because my neighbors, beautiful neighbors, I've known them forever. Chris, okay, he lives at home, just like I live at home with my mom. He lives at home with his mom and dad.
Nice.
Right, Gary in Maryland. And Chris has his own house. Okay, he has his own house here in Orleans, but he just rents it and he lives at home. He's like, nah, dude. He's like, I live with my mom and dad. I love living with my mom and dad. He ain't got a girl,
nice,
right? But he does have a hand. And, he's just, Chris is living the life, dude. He used to come out, back in the day, he'd be drinking, Mike's Hard Lemonade. And I'd meet him in the middle of the road, right, because we're neighbors. And he'd be on one side, and we just meet, and he'd have a Mike's Hard Lemonade in his hand. I don't know if you guys remember, late '90s, early 2000s. Anyway, so
yes,
yeah,
pretty gay.
right? Yeah, exactly.
I had a couple.
Right? Yeah, exactly, man. So, you know, we just be, you know, having a brew, having a laugh. But Chris and his family have given me a chest freezer, right? They got, I think they upgraded or whatever, and it still worked. And that chest freezer has saved my ass, okay? And that's all I do now. I just wait for good sales, and I stock up. I don't need another TV. I got a 65-inch TV. It's amazing. I got a Samsung TV. Right? I like Samsung. And I don't need another TV. I don't need more electronics, but I do need like cheaper prices on groceries and meat, especially meat. Meat, okay? I need meat. I got another one for you here, Pan. This one is from the States.
Okay, it says Bidenomics has made me stronger. I can now carry $70 in groceries with just my pinky.
Really? Yeah, exactly, man. That's what I'm talking about. My sister's in the chat. Angeli, how you doing? Says, that's right, man. How you doing, babe? I'm gonna slap that ass.
What?
No, I don't. No, you got.
Disavow.
Disavow.
No, you got to remember the relationship I got with my sister. I'm like her bad big brother.
No.
Yeah. I run after her, and I'm just like, you know what I mean? No. It's like I'm like the. I don't know how to explain this. How do I explain this?
Bro, I would say move on to the next topic.
No.
Your sister says, I'm scared, with the laughing emoji in the chat.
I chase her, man. I'm just like, right? Anyhow. Okay.
But no, this meme is accurate. Like, I think this is pretty much universal for Americans and Canadians. You know, $70 won't get you what it used to at the grocery store. You know, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Okay, I got another American one over here. What are we looking at over here?
Okay, it says, I'm not dying for Israel. And it's a dude just chilling in the wood, drinking a Budweiser with an Uzi.
Right, yeah, with an Uzi. Sonia says, awkward turtle. Yeah, right? Awkward turtle. It costs $20 to make guacamole, says GOV. Yeah, it sure does, man. Guacamole, man. Guacamole, you know, that's a Mexican food, but very tasty. Really tasty food. Okay, I got one more over here for you, Pat. Take a look at this, brother.
It says, it's a raccoon in like a scene of the sunset. It says, care about Israel in this economy?
Right? Okay, and I'm going to show you something that turned up on my feed today. All right, hold on a second over here. This is the propaganda we're being subjected to 24/7. Propaganda, okay? Take a look at this video over here. Hold on a second. How do I make this bigger? Does that work? No, that doesn't work.
She said.
No, that doesn't work. Pardon me?
How do I make this bigger? That's what she said.
Oh, yeah. Damn, son. That's right, man.
Gotcha.
You know what? That she never said that to me. Ever. Okay. All right, let's take a look. Here we go.
Rock Jew.
My neck, actually. I got a weird phantom pain all of a sudden in the back of my neck.
Damn.
Oh,
It's from too much internet.
I got this phantom pain, man. Oh, jeez. I think that golem just gave me some phantom pain. Ouch. Got.
Aneurysm.
That feels like a threat to me. I don't appreciate threats from anyone.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh,
Yeah, that's all I'll say about that.
Support the Jews or else.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that very much so. Whose war? Your war, says Silver Sadie. That was awesome, says Bear. Yes. Propaganda's thick today, says JCBU Undercover. Rock Lives Matter, says Angry Canadian. Every day is a war of survival these days, says Outback Wanker. New Zealand, that's right, FJT. No need for threats from anyone here in Europe, Scandinavia, says Irisu. Yeah, I'm not in a war, says Locked Into Lovers. That's what I'm saying. And these people have been in a war forever. That part of the world has been at war forever. Absolutely forever. It is not new. It is not new at all. Okay, I got one more thing here for you regarding that. Let me see if I can find it out. Here it is. Yeah, this is a good meme. I think you're gonna like this. I think you're gonna like this meme. There you go. What am I looking at here, Pen?
Oh wow. Okay, so it's a scene from Indiana Jones, the first one, the original, and it's the scene where he's exchanging the bag of sand for the golden idol in the cave. But here he's exchanging the Ukrainian war for the war in Palestine, Israel. So there you go. Indy's changing one for the other, and he hopes he can make it out without the ball rolling down on him.
Yeah, I worry about Ukraine. I feel like Ukraine. Everybody forgot about Ukraine. You know that?
That's right. They forgot. We forgot. I mean, Ukraine. And then you have Zelensky saying, "We need more money." You know, of course, more billions.
Unbelievable stuff. Absolutely unbelievable stuff. This is what they want us to believe. They want us to believe that if we do not send our sons and daughters, or at least for now, just absolutely bankrupt our economies.
Yo, what up, Big Toad? How are you, bro?
For these foreign wars, that we ourselves will be targeted next.
You must be getting ready for your voyage, my man. We don't have to talk about it on stream.
Israel, then the insane
enjoy that
Muslims
voyage,
are
my
going to
dude.
overtake and overrun our country.
I'm sorry I was
Sharia
not able
law.
to
Now,
make
I
it
wanna
to
tell you
Montreal in the
something. I can't
last
even go to
few
Luton
weeks.
Okay, so Luton, I was born in a little town called Hitchin, which is just above Luton, just north of Luton. And Luton is where Tommy Robinson is from. That little place is a friggin' dump. Okay, I can't even get a beer and a chunk of meat at a restaurant over there. I remember I walked in. There's some Pakistani restaurant my cousins took me to. I go, I want to eat some lamb, right? Some lamb chops and some goat, So I go there. My cousins take me when I go to visit England, and they take me to this restaurant. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, "Yeah, can I get a beer, right? What beer you got?" And then the guy looks at me, and he's like, "We don't have beer." Right? And then I say, "Okay, well, we don't have beer." I was like, "All right, well, give me a whiskey." Like, I was literally mind blown. Like, I couldn't understand. You don't have beer. I'm like, "Okay, well, give me a whiskey then." And then he goes, "No, we're a halal, whatever the hell restaurant." And I was just like, and I looked at my cousins, and I'm like, "Are you? What the hell is wrong with you people? Why are you bringing me to a halal restaurant? I want to drink and eat. I can't even eat and drink in my own country. What are you guys doing?" Right? And I said, from this day forth, you guys only take me to a Punjabi restaurant because I need to drink and I need to eat. I can't. What is this nonsense? Couldn't believe this nonsense. So anyways, that's the kind of thing that I can't countenance. I don't like this. I don't want to live in a place where other people's rules and regulations apply to me. As it is, I got to continuously be careful when I walk around the city, you know what I mean, going downtown, the rest. I know people rolling in over here in Ottawa for, this mini convoy 2.0 and Hawken and the rest. For me, I'm not putting myself in any environment with cops, okay? I'm sorry, I'm just not doing it. I got to, especially now, as things have changed and there's so many agitators, I'm just not doing it. I don't care anymore. Not I don't care about freedom, but I'm not putting myself in a situation unless it's warranted. At this point, when it's serious, call me up. If it is just, tomfoolery, I'm good. That's my opinion, and yours may vary. That's just the way it is. Everybody's going to have a different take on that, okay? And free people can have different opinions. Free people can have different opinions, and your opinions can change as well, depending on circumstance and how society changes and whatever. Here we go. All right, New Zealand. We've been talking about all this. I wanted to hit some New Zealand stuff because they've had a massive change in government. If you could be so kind, Pan, let's take a look.
Okay, from X-Twitter, it says Black History Month. In New Zealand, Maori Queen Jacinda ruled the country with a bag of nuts in one hand and a syringe in the other. She abdicated in 2023 following reports that she may have been the illegitimate child of Desmond Tutu and Cher. Her whereabouts are unknown.
Okay, so she abdicated. This other fellow came in who was just as bad, right? This is the biggest problem. And I mean, I hate to do this to people because it's like it's a poison pill, right? It's a poison pill. You got to take it. It's a suppository. It's a poison suppository. It's a black pill suppository in your back hole. But do you really think everything's going to change when you get a face change? These people are owned by the same supranational governments, bankers. The banksters are the real gangsters. Right, we know that. They're squeezing us. They're squeezing us for another year and a half, right? We're in 2023, 10th month. About another year and a half, they're going to squeeze us, man. They're going to squeeze us. So people are just like, hey, take this property off me. I can't take it anymore. You know, declaring bankruptcy. These tent cities are going to grow in the next year and a half. They're going to grow. We're going to have Canada, the biggest problem. It's very hard to have a tent city. Why? Because of the weather. So they're going to migrate all west, where the weather's, you know, milder, until the beautiful land of British Columbia is completely full. It's filled up, right? It's filled up with tent city immigrants. They're shipping them right now from Vancouver City to the island. I'm getting reports from people that they're actually shipping them, actually shipping the homeless. And these people are just, you know, you get these face changes, but it's good as well to see that the population is voting against them. That the mass population, that's where I get my positive side from, even though, so I have these two things in my mind at the same time. It's that I know they're not all that much better, and they're going to go along with the banksters and the supranational government entities that are actually the real problem. I know that they're going to kowtow to, you know, I wanted to say a sea change. You just get weather change, all that kind of stuff. I know they're going to kowtow to it. I know they're going to do that. I know they're going to implement other systems of governance that are not in our best interest. But at the same time, you can see that the population themselves have had enough. And that's where my support still for more right-wing or more populist parties will come from anyways. Right? So let's take a look over here what New Zealand is saying. Okay, New Zealand's Labour Party. All right, so let's get over here. Labour is with a U. Sorry about that. That is wrong right there. Okay, here we go. So let's take a look here. Bloomberg. This is a good one. I like the title of this one. Let's hit this one. Here we go.
Okay, from a red tide in 2020 to blood on the floor in 2023, New Zealand slams the door on Labour.
Okay, so here we go. We got this guy. What's his name now? Chris Hipkins. That's his name, right? Chris Hipkins in the Labour Party. Okay. For Chris Hipkins and the Labour Party, it was a terrible evening. Labour's 26.9% of the vote is barely half of what it achieved just 3 years ago, and its second worst performance since 1969. So Labour, of course, you know, leftist, really heavy duty. I just want to kind of zoom in on this image. I don't know if I can. I don't know if it'll let me. Okay, but it's just the tears for me. You know that? It's just the tears for me. I like that. This is the guy saying, hey, we're going to get them in their homes. Everybody's going to be taking the jab. You don't do this, we're going to get you. We're going to find you. We're going to hunt you down. Anybody who stood against us. We've seen crazy footage from that part of the world. You know, things were bad in Canada, but we've seen them in Australia. I've seen women held up for not wearing a mask and being absolutely abused by police officers, cops. I wasn't a big fan because I grew up in Montreal, right? I was born in England, but I was 8 months old when my parents brought me here to the country, right? Wrapped up in a cloth diaper, you know, and I was born under a ring of fire eclipse. Probably not. But it was a ring of fire eclipse on Saturday, okay? So I don't know if anything happened to you on Saturday, you know why now, because there was a ring of fire eclipse. By the way, if you read your tarot cards, right, told you what happened to you, right? All right.
From Friday the 13th to the Ring of Fire on Saturday.
That's right. I know some people have been, you know, if you've recently been had an argument with your wife or your loved one, or you've been put in jail, it's probably because of the Ring of Fire eclipse.
Wow, everything's been going great for me.
Yeah, okay. Or maybe you just had a ring of fire when you're on the potty, right? Maybe that's just what happened. But these guys are getting blotted out. That's what they're getting, right? You know, the Labour Party, the leftists, right over here, are getting their asses handed to them. That's what's happening now. You can see this over here. Seat change, right? National Party of New Zealand, 50 in 2023. Before that, they had 33. ACT, I don't know what that is, 11, 10 to 11 seats. They got one more. New Zealand First, they got a New Zealand First Party. I like the title of that. Let's hear what they do. New Zealand First. You know, New Zealand First. Did that work? No, New Zealand First Party. Let's take a look. I bet you this is like their PPC style party. New Zealand First. Let's take a look at that. Why not? Here we go. Be so kind, brother.
Okay, from Wikipedia, it says New Zealand First, commonly abbreviated to NZ First, is the populist and nationalist political party in New Zealand. There you go. The party formed in July 1993 following the resignation on March 19th, 1993 of its leader and founder Winston Peters from the then governing National Party. Peters had been the sitting member of parliament for Tauranga since 1984 and would use the electorate as a base for New Zealand First until consecutive defeats.
Let's see what they are. Okay, who are these people? This is interesting to me because you can see something interesting that can even point to some kind of future for us as well, right? In Canada, New Zealand First, in 2020, 0 seats, and in 2023, 8 seats. So 8 more seats from 0, right? Everybody says this, and listen to me, okay? I met Maxime Bernier personally. I met him twice. I'm not impressed with any of these politicians. The guy couldn't hack it, couldn't handle it, you know what I mean? I hit him with a couple things here and there, you know what I mean? Just teasing the dude, right? As I want to do, because I've got a spring in my step, joy in my heart, and a heart on in my pants. And I'm just talking to the guy, he's wearing a party shirt. That's what he does. Whenever Maxime Bernier is out in the town, he's wearing a party shirt. My brother used to wear the same party shirts, you know, it's polyester. He wears polyester party shirts. That's what Maxime Bernier does. Okay? Yeah, I'm going to just see if I got this. Yeah, here we go. I got this.
These guys.
Yeah. See this? This is a meeting.
Yeah. All right, brother. You too.
You see his party shirt? That's a polyester party shirt he's wearing right here.
Guys, yeah.
Okay. All right. And he's, you know, I don't know. I asked him a couple questions. I just found that he can't roll. I could see that at one point I was able to he's getting angry with me. The dude was getting angry with me. I'm just like, are you WEF, bro? And I'm just having a laugh with him, and he's getting angry. He's getting angry. I'm like, dude, you can't even roll with me, a fucking jackass on the internet. You're telling me you're going to be able to roll out there? Holy shit. The pressure I'm applying to you is 1% of what you're going to have to face in the world. Control your friggin' emotions, party boy. Anyways, so, my personal opinion. Still, I like the platform. A lot of what he says. He's a big believer in gold standard arrest, and I like to see change. I like to see different things happening. So New Zealand First, you know, maybe that's a little bit of hope for the PPC guys. 0 to 8, okay, amazing, right? 0 seats. Let's take back our country. It says right over here. All right, let's see what their policies are. I want to see what their. That's going to be interesting. Let's see here. Okay. I hope it's like no immigration, no immigrants. Eritreans go home. Sorry, Israelis, sit down. No Ukrainians, no Israelis, no Palestinians. We don't like any of you. New Zealand is for the lambs, MFer. It's for the lambs. Yes to sheep shagging. No to immigration. Okay.
They love their goats.
That's what I'm hoping, man. That's what I'm hoping. All right, let's see here. Fighting against racist separatism. All right. Maybe, Pan, you can just hit a couple of these points, whatever you think looks interesting. Here we go.
Yeah, fighting against racist separatism. Let's see. Rule out working with any political party that promotes separatism. Okay, let's see.
Here we go.
A little bit.
Look at this. UNDRIP. No UNDRIP, right? So withdraw from UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. That one just caught my eye. Okay, so that right there is a really big one. UNDRIP, of course, which would probably be this idea, and they've been pushing this idea. Sorry to cut you off there, Pan, but this idea of always giving. So why are people always like, I stand here on unceded land of my mother's land because she owns this house and I am the squatter? Okay, Miigwech, right? Why do people do that? It's all leading up to this UNDRIP stuff where they can say that every land that we own, this property that we own. Well, I don't, but if I did, right? I own, right? But if I did, then they can say that is actually due to these native first persons, right, indigenous peoples, and that I'm a friggin' squatter, even though I'm a dirty street Okay? And yet, I can't own nothing, so UNDRIP is going to take away your property rights, most likely. They will be able to at least subvert them to some degree. All right, so they want to withdraw from that. That's something interesting right there. Let's move on. Defending freedom.
Yeah, look at that. Protect freedom of speech by opposing hate speech laws. I like that, you know. Opposing the hate speech laws,
like that too.
You know.
Yeah, we got to check this one out, man.
It says, amend the Sport and Recreation New Zealand Act to remove public funding from bodies that allow non-biological women to be selected unequally against biological women. Okay, yeah, no, I mean, that's great, you know. They're talking about, you know, the trans people. I like how they say non-biological women. They're not mincing words, which is good.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, you know that? And it's, look, I got no issue, okay, and I'll be perfectly honest. You know, I'm an experimentalist. I love everything. I will rub up against you in a subway. There's no issue. But, right, can we get past this kind of, you know, this drama and pretending, right? All there is to it is that penis does not belong in the women's bathroom. I'm just saying, right? Penis does not belong in the women's bathroom. And if I see a dude walking in a women's bathroom, we're gonna have an issue. That's just what's gonna happen. That's just what it is.
If they were really based, they would just come out and say, you know what, no men in women's sports. But unfortunately, they can't say that. So they have to say non-biological women. So
well, that's clear. I like that. It's clear. It's very clear. Right? It's clear. It's very clear. We're talking about biology here. We continue down. Yeah.
Says end all vaccine mandates.
Wow.
Still operating in some organizations and medical facilities. Yeah, good.
I just want to point out here, okay, that this New Zealand First Party, and I think this is where it kind of shows where the tide is turning across the global west. Okay, and I said global west because obviously New Zealand is in the east, right? If you look at the globe as a ball rotating, orbiting the sun, and the moon orbiting the earth. I don't know why I felt the need to say that.
You know, just to be clear,
right?
You know,
to come out as non-flat Earth people. I came out of the closet there as a baller, as a round baller.
Wow.
Right?
Yes, I do believe that it's a globe. Just so everyone knows, I think it's a globe.
I just want to show you here Google Earth, okay? I don't know if this is gonna work here on my computer, but let's see here. All right, I just want to make it clear here. Explore Google Earth, all right? Okay, let's zoom out. Okay, here we go. This is the ball that we live on, right? That's what they tell us we live on, okay?
Fake. That's fake.
Right. Okay, here you go. This is Canada and the U.S. over here. And if you rotate it to the east, right, you're going to get Europe, you're going to get Africa. Look how big Africa is, by the way. By the way, I want to tell you something here while we got the map open. That standard flat map that you're told about, right, is a lie, okay? Flat map of Earth, okay? This right here, where's the map? You know what I'm talking about? What's that map called, man? The standard map of Earth. Anybody know? Hello, Mom? This one here.
Like the Atlas or something?
Yeah, what is man, it's a projection, okay? What I'm trying to tell you here is that the standard map that you know about, it's not accurate because of the way that it's projecting a globe upon a flat plane. That's what I'm trying to say here, and I can't remember the name of that. Anybody know? Mercator, yes! Hail the chat. Thank you so much, Doug, PR. Mercator map, okay? So this is a Mercator map projection. It has a lot of distortion. So look at this over here. Here's your Mercator projection. This is the one that you've seen in school, right? But there's distortion because of the way that it's flattened out. So imagine you take a beer can, right, of blue, right? Labatt Blue. It's the one that you get through the drive-through back in the day over there in Ohio, right, Gat? And you open up
oil can. The oil can.
Right? Yeah, the Labatt Blue oil can. And you unroll it, okay? You can unroll a cylinder to a flat plane. I know I'm getting all trigonometry geometry on you here, but you can unroll a Labatt Blue oil can of beer, right, onto a flat plane because a cylinder can be mapped up to a rectangle through base times height, right? Would be cylinder to rectangle, okay, to get the area. That's why your calculation right, is like pi. Okay, see this? You take your green beans, right? Your green beans, and the length, the width, and the height. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Okay, that thing right there.
Yeah,
L,
I think I get it. Like, so you're saying the flat map, the Mercator map, isn't spatially compensating for the actual curvature
yes.
of the Earth.
Yes.
So the proportions are wrong.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Okay. All right. Oh man, like I don't want to go all flat Earth on everybody here, right? But it's just okay. So that's what's cool about the globe. When you actually start to roll the globe, okay, with your hand like this, your
And
mouse
then you're
hand.
like, look how big Africa is.
Yes. Thank you. Hey, you got it, Pat. Right? Because I'm always like, yo, Africa. Like, there's a lot of black people in Africa. Right? You know, right?
Even more than we thought.
Pat, I got a question while I got Africa open here, okay? So, Nigerians are from Nigeria. What do we call the people from Niger?
Oh, well, yeah, Nigerians are Nigerians, so I guess we call them Nigers.
Nigers, okay, thank you. Right, you keep rolling it here, and then you're like, and if you look when you just, sorry, not rolling it, you pan, I think you call it.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, and I want to make it clear, hell, brother. India is so small, they've got 1.4 billion people living there, man. That's a lot of street shitting in India.
How did they pack them in there? What?
Right? Okay. So what I wanted to make clear here, this is why I opened the map, is that New Zealand is actually east. Okay? But here's something else that's interesting because the Earth is a globe. Is that if you keep going west, right, from Ottawa where I live, right, 1722 with the Crescent, okay, right there, that's my house. Right over here.
All right.
Okay, that's my house right there.
Looking good.
Thanks, bro. And Chris actually lives. Oh no, sorry. This is my house right here. There you go. Yeah, that's my house right there. And then, and my buddy Chris. See, that's my corner lot. That's actually my backyard. And then that's my deck. You can see it right there. And then Chris actually lives in this house over here, and that's his pool.
And he
right
drinks
there.
Mike's Hard Lemonade.
That's his pool right there. Anyway, so. Okay, there's my house, and if you keep on going west, you actually end up in New Zealand. Okay, you see that? Southwest.
Man, it's amazing. The globe. The globe is amazing.
You know what I'm saying, though? So
any direction you go, you're gonna wind up at the same point.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Right. So I'm just saying here, Jeremiah says balls of lime. I see your dirt patch, says Terry. What's that, my shirt? Anyways, okay. Point I'm saying here is that the global west, New Zealand, part of the global west, a lot of change happening, huge amounts of change. This is really showing me something more than the fact that Labour lost, which is the leftist party, right, from 34 seats. So this would be like the Liberals losing from 65 seats to 34. Okay, that would be effectively it. Even the Green Party increasing here from 10 to 14. People are probably like, I don't even know who to vote for anymore, right? You know, but all I know is I hate these guys. The Maoris, right, who tattooed their chins, and the rest going from 2 to 4 seats. But this right here is probably the most interesting to me. New Zealand first, going from 0 seats. One of the major criticisms of the PPC, that they can't win their own seat and all the rest, but going from 0 to 8, that right there tells me something, you know, possibly something. And yet they have the exact same, very similar platform over here. Defund any public participation in the WEF. Okay, that's pretty wild. Require a national interest test to stop us being dictated to by the United Nations and agencies like the WHO. WHO, of course, doing the pandemic treaty. Okay, they haven't ratified that yet, but the pandemic treaty, which would subsume national sovereignty to global non-elected groups, right, like the WHO over here, the pandemic treaty. Okay, well, we'll leave that alone now. Instead of looking it up right now today, I want to see where they are, but I'll do that on my own time, right, while I'm, anyhow. Okay, we got here, tackling the cost of living crisis. So exactly the same problems, right? Same problems as Canada. All our costs are going up: food, power, fuel, healthcare, rents, rates, and mortgages. If we want to buy I mean, do you not almost feel like we are all being squeezed globally across the global West? Do we not? Are we not Am I crazy here?
I think it's pretty clear at this point, 100%.
Am I nuts over here? New Zealand, who shag sheep, right, with Maoris, and these guys are complaining about the fact that it's so their own stuff is expensive, right?
Yeah, and it's going to be felt in these countries like
Pardon me?
U.S. This is where it's targeted, right? It's where the squeeze, it's where the money is, where they can get the most money out of the people who have any whatever retaining wealth they're able to retain these last couple hundred years. They're going to squeeze what's left of it out of those countries. And so specifically targeted in the people that actually have the wealth still. So, yeah. I don't know about New Zealand. I mean, specifically, I really know nothing about New Zealand. But, yeah, I mean, UK, Australia, Canada, it seems like the testing ground for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we got Terry Leak, and he's complaining that there's no anything about Israel, Gaza, or is this a geography show? Is this the biggest issue right now? Do you not have international news feeds? So this is my argument, okay? This is actually my argument on that point. It's that this stuff is an atrocity show. The Israeli, the Ukraine stuff, the Israeli-Palestinian stuff, that is not new. It's not new, okay? It has been an atrocity shit show over there for, since 1947? Since before then, 1918? 18 something or other? I mean,
Since BC, actually.
British Columbia?
No, since, like
Christ.
BC, like...
Before Christ!
We're talking before Christ, it's been a shit show, brother. You know what I mean? So, we want to keep talking about it, we can, but... It's like it's a major distraction from everything else that's going on. Anyone that wants to watch about this stuff, there's 100 million places you can go and tune in and look for that type of stuff.
Oh yeah.
So more power to anyone who wants to be involved in that. But yeah, I mean that's not something we want to harp on here, man.
No, and I come out really clearly, killing kids. I don't care which kids they are. Black, darky, really the darkest of dark kids. Wrong. The whitest of white children, wrong. Yellow children, pink children, redheads. It's just wrong, man. It's just wrong. That's all there is to it. You got to sit down. You got to have a friggin' discussion. It can't be, we need 2 million people to leave right now, or you're all going to be blown to bits. That is not a discussion. That is not a discussion. That's just my stance on it. Sorry, I can't countenance this unless you literally pray to Kali Ma, right? And you get on your freaking knees and you play to the, you are a death cult. That's what you want. You want death, 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 death. If you don't do that, and if you got an open heart and love and spring in your step and joy in your heart, you like to French kiss women you just met, then you are not doing that. Okay? You're not going to say, hey, let's do that. That's my take on it. That's why I wanted to look at other stuff. I'm like, I just can't do an atrocity horror show. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really sorry about that. I can't do that. Okay, I can't do an atrocity horror show. Nothing to do with YouTube, nothing else. It's because it disconnects your brain. I see people calling. I see Jordan Peterson calling. Bomb, 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 bomb. Great, thank you. Fantastic work, bro. Thank you, Jordan Peterson. Right? Friggin' living prophet of the West. Calling to bomb everybody. Ben Shapiro, same thing. Right? We gotta... If you don't support Israel, then you support... But come on, guys. Is it so simple? Is it so black and white? Is it so black and white? I'm telling you. I like pretty women, man. Doesn't matter if they're what color they are. You know that?
Right.
That's the way it is.
No, for me, it's like I'm just simply not involved. I'm not Palestinian. I'm not Jewish. I'm not here to pick sides. I'm not an activist. I'm not political. This is their problem. That's the way I see it. And like you're talking, the desensitization. Absolutely, you can't get away from it if you go on Twitter, social media. We kind of want to be an escape away from that for people that like war campaign.
This is what
For
it
me,
is.
I can't even say what I want to say about it. Like people don't want to hear my opinion on this stuff, right? And so it's better to avoid the topic altogether instead of risking getting this channel kicked, first of all, right? So it's, and people are not, no one's going to agree. It's nothing but fighting and hysteria at this point. So why not focus on something that may have an impact on your country that isn't just a distraction or just getting you to want to give money or pulling at your heartstrings for sympathy like that. There are other things you need to pay attention to, I think.
For me, it's the atrocity shit show. It's a distraction. It's the lack of sense, in the sense of you got to sit down. You have to sit down. You have to talk. You got to come up with a better idea than just killing each other. You just got to, right? And the international community and people over there, and everybody's got to do that. And if you don't do that, then this is what you're going to get: total war. That's what it is. You want to send your sons and daughters to foreign nations to do what exactly? We haven't learned nothing from all these other globalist wars that have been going on for ages. We haven't learned nothing. Hey, maybe we haven't. Maybe you need to send your sons and daughters, but I ain't doing that. That's all there is to it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not sending them. Sorry. My children are not dying for bankers' wars. They're not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'll die. I'll send my children to die for this country, this land, Canada. Not India, Canada. I'll defend it, and I'll defend the people of my own country and my locality. That's it. That's where I draw the line. Sorry. I know, that's, I got a small mind, I guess, but that's just what it is. Anyways, I thought this was interesting over here regarding New Zealand First, because it shows a populist party going from 0 seats to 8 seats. And that has an effect, direct effect on possibly it has at least some signs to where things are changing within our own country, Canada, right, or the U.S., or any, the UK, or even in the Netherlands, right? The fact that you can have a party in a country that has 0 seats in 2020 and in 2023 has 8 seats. That's interesting to me. I don't know, maybe that's just me. That's interesting to me, right? Because they want to take away our power, and people, your individual power, right? They want to take away your individual power and tell you there's no way you can affect any kind of change. And I've probably been guilty of it to some degree as well, right? It's very easy to become disillusioned completely. But I think the clown show is coming to a little bit of an end. We got this guy over here, Wesley Yang. He's a big-time Twitter guy, and he's just noticed this video that we've seen here in Canada before. I mean, this is from months and months ago. Is it Halloween? Halloween is coming up in about 14 days, if you'd be so kind.
What is this?
Right.
Okay, so Wesley Yang on X Twitter says, not a comedy sketch, an actual Canadian government press conference. Wow. What is this freak show?
Yeah, this was, I remember we covered this at when this happened, but this was the NDP.
The topic that brings us here is deadly serious. The rise of hate and violence facing the 2S LGBTQI+ communities, including the drag artists, happening across Ontario and right in the nation.
These threats and intimidation tactics are very real and happening all around us to people we love and care about.
I'm sorry.
Is that Gwen Stefani?
I'm so sorry. But you know what? People are seeing the clown show, right? You can't fool everybody all the time. Not a comedy sketch. So international people are seeing this. 25,000 likes on this. This guy Wesley Yang, putting this out there again. So interesting, very interesting to see. Very interesting to see. And if you ever thought, hey, this Israeli stuff, this is some heavy duty stuff. We should, well, you know what? Maybe we'll cover it. Here, I'll give you a little video right over here. We'll cover a little bit for you. All right, here we go.
לטני פלייר זה בסדר כי זה מה שהיא אוהבת יכולה לסמוך עליי
יכולה לסמוך עליך
יכולה לסמוך עליי
לא יכולה לסמוך עליך
היא עד הדלת אני פלייר זה בסדר כי זה מה שהיא אוהבת יכולה לסמוך עליי
יכולה לסמוך עליך
יכולה
This is retarded.
All right, I'm just saying. You wanted some Israeli content? I gave you some Israeli content. Put that right in your back hole, right? Yes. Even RFK coming out, man, 100%. Right? Even RFK. Let's see a little bit of RFK, right? I know everybody's doing it. I'll give you a little bit.
Is he doing backflips for Israel?
Yeah, here he is, right? Yeah, backflips for Israel. Here we go.
I wouldn't describe myself. I'm anti-war. Everybody's anti-war. But there's wars that are not wars of choice. And those kind of wars are like World War II. They were attacked at Pearl Harbor, and we need to respond. The Ukraine war is a war of choice. We shouldn't be in it. And we look for wars of choice. What's happening in Israel is not a war of choice. Oh, I support Israel, and I'll tell you why. Israel is our oldest partner, 75 years.
Okay, so here we go. So 100%, that's what you support. You can support a country that is defending themselves. You can support a country that is defending their borders and everything else without supporting all their actions that they're doing. I know this is very complicated, but I'm going to try to break it down, right? You could say, hey, nobody in your country should be being killed by terrorists. That's absolutely unconscionable. It is an atrocity, it's tragedy. But we don't support revisiting an atrocity on then a population that is not necessarily the same people who are doing this to you, right? Or your collective punishment, in other words, right? Collective punishment, that's a term. I didn't want to really touch on this, but I'll tell you a little bit here, right? And I guess I'll give you a collective punishment I did at my house. So for about 2 years, there was an FU carved into my staircase outside, right? I have a little staircase to my side of my house. And I lined up all my kids and I said, who did this? And they wouldn't tell me who did it, right? Literally carved in, right, with a pen knife, pocket knife, FU. And I made them, every one of them were crying, tears streaming down their face. And I'm like, nobody's leaving this. Nobody's leaving. Which one of you carved that in? You're going to tell me. And they're crying, and they're like, my kid, right, my 12-year-old kid who's a little bit of a, anyways. And they're like, it's him, it's him. And I'm like, say it was you. Swear to me. But he won't tell me. And I just said, I'm like, you're all going to stand here. And I psychologically applied so much pressure to them, and their tears are streaming down their faces. And 2 years later, right, my 12-year-old is now, he's 12, and he owned up to it, and he's like, you know what, it was me. But I punished them all collectively. Was it right? Probably not.
You carpet bombed all of them just to get one.
I'm not blameless. That's all I'm saying. I'm not blameless. I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect person. Sorry. I'm just not a perfect person. Just not a perfect person. All right, here we go. Got a little bit of rebellion right here for you, Pat. What do we see here?
So we're moving on from the collateral damage that your children suffered. Anti-taxer, do the world a favor. If you see free COVID tests at the checkout, ask for a few of them, then walk outside and throw them out.
Wow, look at that. There you go. A little bit of rebellion in the morning. You see that? Take a free test, throw it the F out. There you go. I thought that was interesting. I like that, you know. Personally, for me, I'm not even picking them up, but I thought that was funny. There you go. Hit that like button, you Yahoo says, angry Canadians. Angry Canadian. Hail the chat. Hail, brother. Thank you for being here. And you know what? Like I said, we're not going to be doing the atrocities show, but we will be looking at other things and trying to, you know, I know people are talking about ArriveCan. They're talking about the cost of ArriveCan. I don't think the cost matters. I believe with ArriveCan that these guys came out and they already pre-planned this stuff, which is why they were able to put out that software and that application way ahead of time. It's not about the cost. I don't care about the cost. I care about the fact that our civil liberties were stripped. So we're going to look at other things. We're not going to just fall into the trap of the mainstream media pushing atrocity porn at us 24/7, confusing us, making us lost, making us pick a side, making us hate our brothers and sisters of this country because we have different opinions about some foreign conflict. Hail the chat. Hail, brethren. Thank you so much for being here.
راسي
fuck.
Can I see that board real quick? Yeah.
Yeah, put it on your mouth there.
Oh!
Done. Oh, I got it.
Everyone gets a cricket. I've met a cricket. I've met a cricket before.
Are you serious? Oh, God, right. Yeah, can I shoot a photo of it?
I gotta get your back.
Hey everyone, this is Adam Ellenboss from Nightlight Astrology. Happy Monday, everybody. Today we are going to take a look at what is arguably the biggest transit of the week, and that is the Sun passing over the south node of the Moon in the sign of Libra right after our solar eclipse, and then moving into a square with Pluto. That's going to happen by the weekend, but this is a week that in a sense is moving toward this inevitable aspect, and it's a powerful one, so we want to spend time prepping ourselves for it at the very beginning of this week. As the week goes on, we're going to take a look at Mercury Cazimi at the heart of the Sun in Libra, which also happens around this same time, but I didn't add the Mercury Cazimi into today's talk because I wanted to focus first on Sun South Node and Sun Libra. That is our goal for today. I've got 10 what to watch fors with this sequence of events. I'll map out the timeline for you and then talk about those themes that you can watch for, and we'll go from there. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I hope you enjoy the content. Be sure to check out all of the cool archived playlists. There's lots of evergreen material you can find on the channel, especially if you're studying astrology. Share your comments, it helps the channel to grow. We really appreciate it when you guys give us that thumbs up in the beginning too. Transcripts of any of my daily talks can be found on the website, nightlightastrology.com. And when you are there, I want to promote our upcoming class, which is Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. This begins on November 18th. We have 4 full years of professional development curriculum for people who are interested in becoming professional astrologers. The courses are laid out first year, second year, and then we have readings and passages, which is sort of like our advanced mentoring class, and then we have a horary astrology course. But the first year program is the one you want to start with, and that begins every 6 months. So here we are, November 18th is the next course start date, and we are open for enrollment. So you can check out the program on the page. And as you scroll down, you'll see there's 30 classes on the year. We have 12 guest teachers that come in. Outside of those 30 classes, there's an interactive group forum discussion. You can ask questions of a tutoring staff year-round. They always answer within a day. We have breakout study sessions that tutors lead, so if you have extra questions in between our major units of study, you can ask. There's a bunch of bonus materials. You can attend the live webinars or follow along with recordings and go at your own pace. Everything's on a class website. You can keep it for life. You can download all of it. At the bottom of the page, you'll find different enrollment options. There is an early bird payment plan, save you $500 off. Early bird payment, I should say. There is a payment plan that allows you to spread the tuition out over 12 monthly installments. And then we have need-based tuition for people who need a little, maybe a little help to make the class happen. We realize that people are coming from there's a lot of diversity economically in people who love astrology. It really spans, it's not like just one type of person that loves astrology. And so we don't think that there should be one type of person who gets to study astrology. Obviously, astrologers have to make a living, but I think one of the good fortunes of Nightlight and the Nightlight Astrology School has been over the years that we've been able to have people who look and say, you know what, I can afford your price point, and so I'll go ahead and pay that. But then there's other people that say, I can't afford that, and we trust you to make that decision and say, I need a little help, apply for the tuition assistance. And we have found that we've had nothing but really honest people in integrity using this kind of unique system that we have. So if you are someone who could use a little help to make it happen, you want a sliding scale to work within to find the price point that's ideal for you because you have a tight budget, you're a single parent, you're on retirement fixed income, whatever your situation is, you're working 2 jobs and it's just tight, we get it. So, everyone should be able to study astrology, and that's what we think makes our program really fantastic, is that we have a lot of different people coming from a lot of different backgrounds that are able to share in the joy of the subject. So at any rate, if you want to use that, please do. Just click on the Apply Now button. If you could use the need-based tuition assistance, email us, info@nightlightastrology.com if you have any questions whatsoever about whatever what the program entails or whatever you might have to ask us about the enrollment options or anything like that. Okay, well, the other thing that I want to promote today is my friends over at Astrology Hub. They have an Inner Circle program, which is coming up. Starts in the new year. You have, I'm going to scroll down here. You can learn more about it on astrologyhub.com. And when you go over to astrologyhub.com, let me actually, I'll just put this up in case you need. There we go. I'll put a banner up so you can actually see the website. So it's astrologyhub.com. When you go there, what you're going to do is you're going to click on membership. And then this is the Inner Circle. What's cool about the Inner Circle, and I've actually been one of the teachers in one of the Inner Circle groups. I think it was 2022 that I was one of the 12 teachers on the year. So you get 12 different astrologers that lead you through one moon cycle for the year, looking at all the transits, the lessons, inherent, some like rituals of transformation you can do. It's a really nice monthly moon circle that meets throughout the year. It's a little different than our Roots and Spheres program, for example, where we're working through the year, but we're working with plants. You got the same 2 teachers. I like offering this to people because it's another really great monthly moon circle that Astrology Hub offers that I've participated in as a teacher in the past. And it's really, what I like about it is that you get you get a bunch of different astrologers giving you their insights. So it's a way of receiving a lot of wisdom about astrology and taking a yearly journey through the transits of the year with 12 different astrologers. And again, you can scroll down and learn more about it. And the other thing that I like is that each astrologer teaches like one master class on the year. So anyway, my master class, I can't remember what, I think it might have been on, I'm trying to remember what it was. Maybe it was on Saturn, I don't remember. But at any rate, check them out, sign up for the Inner Circle if you're looking for a place to develop community and a really cool list of astrologers teaching on the astrology of 2024. That's coming up soon, so I hope you will take advantage of it, sign up and enjoy the program. Okay, Now, all of our promotions have been done for the day, so we can get right into our talk. So here is the astrology of this week. This is Saturday, October 21st, and what I want to point out is that you can see that the sun will be moving through the square with Pluto. Now this is Saturday, October 21st. I'm going to back this up and just show you how the week evolves from Monday, when they're within about 5 degrees of one another. First, we have the sun. This is the mean node measurement, but the sun crosses the south node middle of the week, Wednesday. And then by Friday, we're getting right into the territory of Mercury square Pluto, and then the sun square Pluto into Saturday. The Mercury Cazimi happens in there too. Like I said, we'll visit that in a separate video. That's the big astrology of the week right there. I mean, that is a powerful series of transits. The Mercury combustion, the Mercury Cazimi, the Mercury square Pluto, the sun crossing the south node, the sun squaring Pluto. Today, I want to give you a list of things to watch for, considering the sun crossing the south node and the sun squaring Pluto. Now these are, again, as always, in no particular order, but I think that they are all relevant archetypal themes or symbolic sort of predictive ways of looking at what might come up. So number one is that you'll see old patterns and old cycles resolving or coming to a head somehow, especially related to the topics of the sun. Now, and this is because the sun crossing the south node has a way of crystallizing things that have a history behind them. Something that exists in the past or that has a long history. When the sun comes across the south node, you can feel sort of illuminated from within, which is beautiful. And you can kind of say, I've come to the conclusion of a great cycle. I think it's interesting that this will be happening for me as I'm at my sister's wedding. That's really kind of beautiful in the sense of seeing this kind of cycle of family, and we're both married now, and like all of that. So, sun and south node can very peacefully represent the resolution of old cycles and patterns. And then anything related to the sun, you can see coming to some kind of head or conclusion. And the reason for that is, of course, that the sun's symbolism when it crosses the south node becomes a critical part of what from the past is reaching its moment of integration or release or completion or closure, however we want to look at it. Sun stuff would be anything related to, solar figures, like leaders, fathers, paternal karma, anything related to your sense of ambition or purpose in life too. Somehow a purpose that you've had, you're reaching a moment of having realized something about it, or completed or achieved something relative to a set of goals or a series of goals that you've had over a long period of time. Now it's like you're ready to let them go, or somehow something has been realized or reached or accomplished, or a pattern of striving for something has reached its dead end. It's not going to do this anymore. So watch for anything related to the sun, especially on the broadest level, ambitions, our sense of purpose, what motivates us, a kind of direction that our life is taking, reaching some place of closure, crystallization, completion, accomplishment, resolution, letting go, for better or worse. Number two would be difficult choices. The sun crossing the south node in the sign of Libra, as it also squares Pluto, could suggest that we have to make a difficult choice. Now, I talked at length in another video about the importance of the sign of Libra in the eclipse that we had of making choices that reflect an inner subjective being that is making a choice from the position of being a soul, rather than only making a choice based on sort of pre-existing criteria or some kind of social algebra or calculus or whatever. So difficult choices can come up. We can be faced with looking at different things, weighing different options, somehow being thrust into the middle of something that we feel like, I don't want to be in the middle of it. So how do I make a choice that sort of exonerates me from anyone being upset or disappointed? There it is. We may have to make a difficult choice. Difficult choices with this kind of signature might disappoint someone, but can you make that choice from the position of your soul? And it might feel weighty or heavy, or the choice may have some kind of history behind it with the connection of the South Node and Pluto. Number 3 would be a reduction of the light. The South Node can simply diminish things that it touches. This was one of the meanings that ancient astrologers gave the South Node as a general meaning of reduction or diminishment. So when the sun crosses the South Node of the moon, there can be a reduction or diminishment of light. That could mean, you get a cold, like something super mundane like that, or it could be that there's a lack of clarity. Sometimes you will see for this reason that we also have, so just reduction of light in general could mean that vitality, spirit, understanding, consciousness is just somehow dimmed as you go through some passage where it's just hard to see clearly what's going on, or it's hard to see clearly what to do. This leads into the death and rebirth of solar figures theme, because a reduction of the light could mean that solar figures are ready to pass, or in some cases, some like you could imagine someone who's older or sick literally leaving their body and moving to their next lifetime. Something I believe in personally. But on the other hand, you could see the death and rebirth symbolism being metaphorical. You get your boss leaves your company, you get a new boss. So the death and rebirth around solar figures may have a distinctly paternal flavor around it, like fathers, karma around fathers, and death and rebirth signatures, healing and growth, transformation relative to dad karma. But also anything at all that would represent a leader, or even within yourself, some sense of your own authority or your own intelligence going through a death and rebirth. I thought I was being intelligent making this decision, but I got a lot of feedback from it that makes me realize that my own unconscious was at work, right? And so I have to reevaluate how I see myself, and I have to kind of evaluate my own sense of judgment. Like I don't always have things right, or I can get things wrong, or whatever. So the death and rebirth of solar figures can also be about the solar figure within us, the wise judge, the parent, the leader, the authority figure, and that part of us has to go through some kind of transformation. Number 5 would be a diplomatic crisis, where there are multiple conflicting needs or values, and it's just hard to make everyone happy, and you have to kind of come up with a decision or a choice that balances competing needs, values, etc. So just watch for the Sun in Libra to be trying to mediate a difficult situation where there might be conflicting ideas or values or needs or desires. Number 6 would be the karma of fathers, leaders, etc. I guess that's kind of a repeat of death of rebirth of solar figures. But I mean, what I guess more specifically, what I mean here is that if you have a behavioral pattern that has its roots in your dad, if your dad had a drinking problem and you have a drinking problem and suddenly you're hitting rock bottom and breaking the chain by getting sober, this would be very Sun square Pluto around the South Node. Anything that serves as a moment of breakdown and breakthrough relative to what you carry that comes from your father, or the people who have been like leaders or guiding lights in your life, if they have been great examples or if they've been terrible examples, but your connection to those people and how that connection is coming forth within you in this moment. That could be a very strong theme this week. For example, you might see it come up in terms of a change or a shift in your responsibility and how you handle that, or whether you're ready for that or want more responsibility or not, and looking at for example, some people might say, well, gosh, I'm getting more opportunity to work, but my dad was a workaholic and I don't want to repeat that pattern with my kids or something. All right. Anyway, the number 7 on my list is the truth in plain sight. A Sun Pluto with Mercury too, an eruption of unconscious material coming up, and it's just like, well, there it is, there's the truth. Here's the thing that we haven't been able to see. Now we can see it. Now we know the truth. It was unclear, but now we can see. Number 8 would be the velvet glove covering the iron fist. Pluto in Capricorn's the iron fist. The velvet glove might be the sun in Libra or Mercury in Libra. You get this feeling that this week we could try to strong arm our way through something or assert our power in a way that is we can make it look like unassuming, or we can make it look okay. You know, like you almost think of like thinking of like that old show House of Cards, you know, and Kevin Spacey and his wife, I forget what her name, Robin Wright Penn, maybe it was. Anyway, they had this way of doing things that were very selfish and like motivations of power and stuff like that. But they would know how to get things done in a way that looked like who could possibly complain? Maybe they even look charitable or something. But anyway, there is a little bit of that in the air, so watch about trying to assert power or go after things that you're lusting for, craving in ways that are sort of diplomatically manipulated or contrived. Number 9 would be taking a long view. And the other thing that might be true, by the way, with the velvet glove covering the iron fist point here, is that it might be time where something deep or heavy is happening, but you have to find a diplomatic way of communicating with other people about what's going on. So that might not be quite the same thing, maybe a little bit different take on that one. Number 9, taking a long view. Pluto, Sun, Capricorn, Libra. There is a way. There's a lot of Saturn present. Remember, Libra is the exaltation of Saturn. Capricorn is the domicile of Saturn. Saturn takes a long view on things, and so it might be a point where you reach a bubbling or boiling over point. The temptation is to react, but you might be rewarded if you pause and take a long view, a long-term approach to dealing with something. Number 10 would be letting go of an old ideal, the basic death of the sun idea that we started with, which is that the sun will represent ideal images, ambitions, things we love, or things that we cast in gold in our mind's eye. And this could be a moment where we simply have to let go of a certain idyllic way that we've had of looking at someone or something. And that could actually be relieving. Or a transformation from one image or ideal to a new, transformed, deepened, more soulful, more honest, more authentic ideal. So those are the things that I would watch for with the sun crossing the south node of the moon and squaring Pluto as the week goes on. One of these may hit really profoundly, others may not. Also, I would pay close attention right now to any planets that you have in the let's say the last 3 or 4 degrees of the cardinal or tropical signs. That would be Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Cap, because there's a lot of action around there right now. So any planets, especially your sun, moon, or ruler of your ascendant, if you have in the late degrees of a cardinal sign, you're probably going to be feeling this week a lot more. There's other placements, of course, that could play a role in activating this in your natal chart. If you had your angles, your ascendant, descendant, midheaven, IC in those late degrees too, that could be something to think about. But I'll leave it there for now. I hope that this has been a useful way of starting off your week, kind of prepping you for what's to come. I think that we are going to add into our understanding of the astrology of this week a separate treatment on Mercury, because Mercury is connected to a lot of other things right now, in particular Venus and Venus's condition this week. So lots to look at with Mercury, and I think it deserves a separate video, so that's what we do. Well, that's it for now. I hope you guys are having a great start to your week, and we will see you again soon. Bye.
on today's episode of Mile Higher. Today, we are yet again joined by Graham Hancock.
How is archaeology any different than, say, medicine, other types of sciences?
And it shouldn't be monopolized by a relatively tiny group of professionals who have a much too high opinion of themselves.
Do you worry if a cataclysm happens now, a lot of what we have discovered and built as a civilization will be lost?
For all of these is that they have inherited a shared idea and are manifesting that idea in different periods of history, in different cultures, in slightly different ways. But the idea is what is ancient.
It seems like a lot of people are waking up to that idea.
Definitely.
Do you have hope in the younger generation?
Is it possible that some of them survived? Is there descendants of that civilization still around today?
When I said in the series that I'm public enemy number one to archaeologists, well, that actually is what I am.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Welcome back to Mile Higher Podcast, episode 258. And today we are yet again joined by Graham Hancock. If you didn't catch our last episode, we dove into a variety of topics just now.
We did indeed.
But we're back again to talk about even more.
Yes, I'm very excited for this episode because we're going to be diving into really your forte, your specialty, and that is this question of, was there a lost advanced civilization that existed at the end of the Ice Age? And also, are we a species with amnesia? Are we missing a piece of human prehistory? And this mystery has driven you for the past 30 years or so.
Yes, it really has since the late 1980s. In fact, since about 1989, all my work was journalism. Before that, and my books. I did write books in that period, but they were either 70s or 1970s and the 1980s. They were some travel books and some current affairs books. Looking, for example, at the Ethiopian famine in 1984. That book was called Ethiopia, the Challenge of Hunger. Looking at the corruption in the international aid business. I wrote a book called Lords of Poverty. Subtitle was The Freewheeling Lifestyles, Power, Prestige, and Corruption of the Multi-Billion-Dollar Aid Business. And I was looking at foreign aid as an institution, and in those days, criticizing foreign aid was like criticizing motherhood. It was something you just weren't supposed to do. But I had seen so much going wrong with aid in my travels, particularly around Africa, and I felt something needed to speak out about it. It's not that I had anything against individual aid workers, but aid as an institution was not helpful. I found it was very unhelpful to so-called developing countries, and I felt this needed to be pointed out. But around about that same time, traveling widely and traveling in particular in Ethiopia, I came across Ethiopia's claim to possess the lost Ark of the Covenant, and I found it very interesting.
Absolutely.
Claim, since no other country in the world claims to possess that relic. And I began to look into it in depth, and that was what led me ultimately into this investigation into the possibility of a lost civilization of the Ice Age. The book that I wrote about the Ark of the Covenant was called Sign and Seal, Quest for the Lost Ark of the Covenant. It was published in 1992. But there were certain aspects of the Ark of the Covenant, as it's described in ancient texts, and as Ethiopians still talk about it today, which didn't seem to fit the context of the times. It seemed like some sort of technological device of some kind. It's very carefully described in the Book of Exodus. Its dimensions are given precisely. It's a wooden box, but it's lined outside and inside with gold, with pure gold, and then supposedly tablets of stone with the Ten Commandments are placed inside it. But it does all kinds of weird stuff. It lifts its bearers up into the air. It's carried on carrying gold for a group of bearers. Sometimes it will kill them. Sometimes a bolt of fire will flash out from It doesn't seem to depend on the on whether the person is negative or positive. There was a character called Uzzah in the Bible. There was one occasion when the ark was being carried on the back of a cart and it seemed to be unsteady, and he reached out to steady it, and a bolt of fire lashed out from it and struck him dead, even though his intentions were perfectly good. It seemed to have a hint of technology about it, not simply, superstitions about the divine power, but something that didn't quite make sense in the context. And this led me to consider the possibility that there might be something missing in our stories, that we shouldn't rule out the possibility of perhaps other kinds of technology, not necessarily our kind of technology, being developed by some civilization. This was one of the reasons why I then went on to write Fingerprints of the Gods, which was published in 1995. And which is probably my best known book in this area. That's where I really went in depth into investigating the possibility of a lost civilization in the Ice Age. And obviously, as the years have gone by, I've refined my thinking on this and learned a lot as I've gone along. And I'd like to make this clear at the outset when talking about a lost and advanced civilization, is I don't mean civilization like
flying cars,
no, and
robots,
and robots, and all our stuff. I don't mean that at all. I believe that all human civilizations have emerged out of shamanism. I think shamanism is the fundamental basis of human civilization, and it's the fundamental basis of knowledge. And shamanism can be very scientific in its pursuits and in its investigations. And I think that's the basement, that's the foundation of all human cultures. And some human cultures have taken that foundation and gone in one direction, and some have gone in other directions. So I'm often criticized for saying that some kind of weird advanced civilization came and taught indigenous people stuff. No, that's not what it's about. That so-called advanced civilization emerged out of shamanism itself. And it was an indigenous civilization, and I believe it was present all over the world. But it began for me with a series of problems and questions about the past and about the way that the past is explained. And amongst those issues, two in particular.
I don't find it funny.
One
but
is evidence of extraordinarily advanced knowledge of the cosmos and of the Earth's place in the solar system at a very early date, just about as early as you can go. When you look at ancient texts like the Rig Veda in India, for example, there is evidence long before the Greeks, who are credited with being the first discoverers of a phenomenon called the precession of the equinoxes. There is evidence that cultures long before that, going back into the mists of time, in the oldest myths and traditions that we know, are encoded a series of numbers and a certain symbolism, which is often the symbolism of a great mill turning in the heavens. And in fact, I like to recommend books by other authors. And the book that I recommend, and the book that was key in my own journey, was written by two professors of the history of science back in the 1960s, or perhaps 69, 1970. Their names were Giorgio de Santillana, who was a professor of the history of science at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Hertha von Deschen, who was professor of the history of science at Frankfurt University. And it's a monumental work of research and investigation. And they demonstrated complete, at any rate to my satisfaction, nobody has ever really successfully faulted that there was a highly sophisticated knowledge of the precession of the equinoxes, that it's impossible to trace how far back it goes. It just goes back thousands, perhaps tens of thousands. And they attribute it to what they call some almost unbelievable ancestor civilization that first came to understand the world in terms of number and measure. And I mean, to cut a long story short, precession is an observed phenomenon. At the moment, if you take the North Pole of the Earth, the axis of the Earth, and you extend the North Pole up into the heavens, you will find that that is pointing at a particular star, pretty much. And that star is called Columbus. That's our pole star in our time. It hasn't always been a pole star. It won't always be a pole star. Because there's a wobble on the axis of the Earth. And therefore, that extended North Pole is actually transcribing a great circle in the heavens. Sometimes it will point at empty space. Sometimes it will point at another star. There have been a number of stars that have been pole stars. Tuban in Draco was a pole star about 4,000 years ago. At the same time, and this is where it edges into what we now call astrology. There are the 12 constellations of the zodiac, and why are they recognized as such? Because they are the constellations against the background of which the sun rises, according to a very definite schedule. The greatest interest in ancient times was what constellation houses the sun on the spring equinox. What constellation is rising behind the sun? The sun is seen to be in the grip of that constellation at dawn on the spring equinox. And in our time, that is the constellation of Pisces. We live in the age of Pisces. Within a lifetime or two, it will have shifted into the constellation of Aquarius. We do live in the dawn of the age of Aquarius, at dawn on the spring equinox. Before Pisces, it was Aries. Before Aries, it was Taurus. And you can go back and back and back and back and back. And whether it's to do with the pole star, or whether it's to do with the constellation that houses the sun at dawn on the spring equinox, these changes are all caused by that wobble on the axis of the Earth. It's our viewing platform from which we observe the stars. As it changes its orientation in the heaven, naturally the orientation and the rising times of particular stars will change. It's thought that the Greeks, perhaps as recently as less than 200 BC, 2,200 years ago or so, were the discoverers of precessions. But what Santillana and Von Deschen absolutely demonstrated is that they were simply rediscovered or redefined, much older. Now, it takes a long time to observe this. You have to be very precise to observe this. It unfolds at the rate of 1 degree every 72 years. The whole cycle takes 25,920 years to complete. And to observe it precisely and predict it accurately and know exactly what's going on, and then to create a symbol for it, a great mill turning in heaven, and to use that symbol and to combine it with numbers that are referenced in myths and traditions all around the world, they detected the fingerprints of an ancient science in that, which had largely been forgotten, but the key elements of it were remembered through great storytelling, through myth, through traditions, and through the notion of world ages. And this is definitely the work of something that we would need to recognize as a civilization with scientific focus. And that is a civilization that can and did arise out of shamanism. Shamans are very observant of the cosmos and of what is going on in the cosmos. Second thing is the existence of ancient maps, which show the world as it looked during the last ice age. We know pretty well how the world looked during the last ice age. And what is the big change? The big change is that during the ice age, sea level was 400 feet lower than it is today. That means that huge amounts of land that were above water during the ice age are now under. And therefore, it's odd to find maps which were drawn in the 14th, 15th, 16th century, but where the map makers tell us that they were using much older source maps that were falling apart, that they were trying to preserve the information in those maps. They copied them onto their new maps, and lo and behold, they show the world as it looked during the last ice age. They show Antarctica in maps drawn in the 1500s, based on older source maps, when our civilization didn't even know Antarctica existed until 1820. But there it is, in all its glory, on these much more ancient maps. And then another problem, many of these maps, particularly the so-called Portolanos, which are all copies of older source maps, but often incorporate new knowledge that was discovered at the time that the map makers were working. That these contain extremely accurate relative longitudes, and longitude is a scientific issue, which our civilization didn't crack until the middle of the 18th century. In fact, there was a huge prize, an unbelievable prize. I believe it was $1 million British pounds that was offered for anybody who could crack the longitude problem. Well, longitude's really important if you're a sailor, if you're navigating at sea, because if you don't know your longitude, you might be 300 miles east or west of where you think you are, and you might crash into a coastline that you're not expecting. It's really useful to know exactly what your longitude is. But it took a very accurate chronometer that would keep accurate time at sea despite the rolling motion of the ship before our civilization was able to solve the problem of longitude. Solve the longitude problem roughly in the 1750s onwards when we solved it. And yet here are these ancient maps with extremely accurate relative longitude long before we solved it, and those maps themselves are based on even older sources. So these curiosities led me to think that it's worth exploring the possibility that our historians and archaeologists don't know everything about the past, that there might be new things to learn about the past, that there might be a forgotten episode in the human story, as virtually every one of the great myths and traditions around the world insists on. And that set me on my journey to explore this possibility. That, and while I was researching the previous book, The Sign and the Seal, finding myself in the presence of the Great Pyramid of Egypt, which is just the most unbelievable, staggering, extraordinary work of beauty and art and science. The Great Pyramid is an incredibly complicated monument, but those who built it had an enormous knowledge, which they manifested in the Great Pyramid. And I'll tell you a bit more about that.
Yeah, God. So for those that don't understand, what is mainstream academia's view on those maps you just referenced? Like, why don't they see the same thing that you do?
They think it's just fantasies of the map.
They're just like having fun, take a best crack at what it looks like.
Just make stuff up. Make up Antarctica.
Yeah.
Just make it.
Why? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, they say that those map makers had the idea that the Earth somehow needed to be balanced.
Oh, so there's got to be land at the bottom, land at the top.
Yeah, and in fact, even though there actually isn't much land around the North Pole, it's mostly sea ice.
Yeah.
Whereas Antarctica is a true continent.
Huge continent.
Yeah, which is buried under ice. So I mean, they're welcome to their view, but I don't agree with them. I think we're looking at hints and clues that something is missing in our story, and I made it my focus for many years to try and identify what that missing thing could be, and to try to show that archaeology, most archaeologists would deny this, and I know lots of individual archaeologists who I like very much, but again, as was the case with my book critiquing foreign aid, I'm looking at archaeology as an institution which has a particular narrative to tell, and whether they like it or not, the narrative of the institution of archaeology is that archaeology is the sole arbiter and the sole voice that has a right to speak authoritatively about our past, and that we should basically accept everything that archaeologists say. This is why some archaeologists were so annoyed with me about my Netflix series, Ancient Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Because, I wasn't repeating their narrative.
Yeah.
I was telling a different story and saying, look into different possibilities. I couldn't do anything that I do without the work that archaeologists have done. And I want to pay tribute to archaeologists for that. They do a lot of hard, gritty work. Very, very important work. But like any profession, any science that gets committed to a particular paradigm, it's very difficult to see outside the boundaries of that paradigm. So I was astonished, even though I kind of expected it. I was astonished when the Society for American Archaeologists, egged on by a couple of very furious archaeologists, one of whom has been stalking my work for 30 years, I was surprised when the Society for American Archaeologists wrote an open letter to Netflix demanding that my documentary series be reclassified as science fiction, and saying that archaeology already knew for an absolute fact that there was no possibility of a lost civilization during the Ice Age. And I don't understand how they could know that. I don't get it. It's actually a lie. They don't know it for an absolute fact. It's important to realize a number of things about archaeology. A lot of archaeology that gets done doesn't get done because of a targeted search for something specific. It may be, particularly in the industrialized technological societies, it may be because a dam is being built or a new highway is being built. And rightly and properly, before that land is overturned and destroyed to create the new dam or the new highway, they want to find out if there's anything of archaeological interest in there. So they'll call in archaeologists, and archaeologists will check the landscape out and look and do some digging. And if they find anything of archaeological interest, they will report it and publish it in peer-reviewed journals and so on and so forth. But that leaves huge areas of even the industrialized technological societies which have never been studied by archaeologists at all, never looked at for a moment, because there's not been the funding or the reason to look there. They haven't had justification in their minds to spend scarce funds on looking there. And the other thing is that there are very large areas of the world that archaeology has barely looked at all. I'm not saying that no archaeology has been done in these areas, but the Sahara Desert is largely underserved by archaeology. It's not that no archaeology has been done, but very minimal archaeology has been done in an area that covers 9 million square kilometers. Okay, and we know for sure from paleoclimatology, the study of ancient climate, that the Sahara Desert went through a number of phases of being green and fertile during the Ice Age. As a matter of fact, some of those ancient maps that I've talked about show a green and fertile Sahara. And they show river channels running through it where we now know that river channels did run through the Sahara. So it was an area at one time, particularly during the Ice Age, when the northern hemisphere was extremely unpleasant in many ways, and frozen and dry and inhospitable, it would be natural to migrate to warmer areas, especially if they were fertile. And the Sahara Desert, several episodes during and after the Ice Age, was a very fertile place. So it seems to me quite a serious omission to say that we know everything, we know so much that we can absolutely rule out the possibility of a lost civilization of the Ice Age, but we haven't looked very much at the Sahara Desert. Likewise, the Amazon rainforest. Again, largely for economic reasons, this is an area that has been underserved by archaeology. There's been very little study of the Amazon. Not none, important to make that point, but not much. And you have 5 million plus square kilometers of the Amazon rainforest, still covered by dense canopy, which has hardly seen any archaeological attention at all. And yet, the latest investigations in the Amazon, and I'm as I mentioned, I have nothing against individual archaeologists. There's some great archaeologists who are beginning to dip their toes in the water of doing the real research in the Amazon. And I'm in touch with a team who are doing LiDAR work in the Amazon, where they use light aircraft to send beams of light down through the canopy, and they can see what's lying underneath the canopy. And they're finding these giant geometrical earthworks in the Amazon, and evidence of very large populations that once lived in the Amazon before the horrendous catastrophe of the Spanish conquest of South America and of Mexico. The Spanish sent ahead of them terrible diseases like smallpox, and those populations which did exist in the Amazon supported millions of people. Those populations were decimated, destroyed by smallpox, and within 100 years their cities were overgrown by rainforest, and it's over now, only now, that they're being rediscovered. So how can archaeology say we know enough about the past to be absolutely certain that there was no lost civilization when they haven't really studied the Sahara Desert and they haven't really studied the Amazon rainforest? And then, in addition to that, huge issue is that sea level rise at the end of the last ice age. That 400-foot sea level, it didn't happen overnight. It was spread out over thousands of years, but there were episodes of very rapid sea level rise. very sudden and rapid sea level rise, which are mysterious in themselves. The bottom line is that 27 million square kilometers of land, and that was the best land on Earth during the Ice Age, that was above water during the Ice Age, is underwater. And yes, there is some marine archaeology. Yes, archaeologists are beginning to consider the possibility that it's worth looking at the flooded continental shelf. Some preliminary work has been done, but most marine archaeology has been about shipwrecks from the medieval period. They're looking for shipwrecks because they don't believe that there's anything really that's going to change their view of the past. So their preconception of what might be found has governed what they actually do. And again, of course, financial reasons. It's very expensive to explore underwater. So there we have 9 million square kilometers in the Sahara Desert, 5 million plus square kilometers still left in the Amazon. It was bigger, 7+ million square kilometers, and 27 million square kilometers of the flooded continental shelves. And then we have the fact that the archaeology that has been done elsewhere has largely been in response to roads and dams and other big construction projects and not targeted searches. So they simply cannot say that they have enough evidence to rule out the possibility of a lost civilization. And to say that is, just call a thing what it is. It's a lie. It's not true.
Life is expensive, and these days it's so easy to get yourself into debt. And once you're in debt, it's always a pain to get out of debt. So how many of you out there wish there was a better solution to paying off your debt? Well, PDS Debt has customized 0% interest options for anyone struggling with credit cards, personal loans, collections, or medical bills. With rising interest rates and the cost of living at an all-time high, now is the time to finally take initiative with your debt. Stop waiting and start saving with your own custom debt savings options from PDS Debt. PDS Debt is giving our qualified listeners a free debt savings analysis just for completing the 30-second online debt assessment at pdsdebt.com/mh. You'll receive a full breakdown on how to save on interest each month and the quickest way to take care of your debt. For me personally, when I got out of college, I was dealing with tons of credit card debt, and I was just making minimum payments just to pay that interest, and I wasn't getting anywhere. So I actually used a program much like PDS Debt to roll all of my payments into a low interest monthly payment, and I was able to get out of debt completely in a matter of a year or so. And that's exactly what PDS Debt offers. They offer a program to help you get all of your debt and balances down in a much, much more feasible way. PDS Debt rolls all of your payments into one low 0% interest payment, and everyone with over $10,000 or more in debt qualifies, and there's no minimum credit score required. Bad and fair credit is accepted, which is always great to hear. Save thousands in interest and fees and pay off your debt in a fraction of the time like I did. PDS Debt is offering free debt analysis to our listeners just for completing the quick and easy debt assessment. Again, at www.pdsdebt.com/mh. That's pdsdebt.com/mh. Take back your financial freedom today by visiting pdsdebt.com/mh.
Can we go back a little bit to the rainforest?
Yeah.
I really think it would be so interesting to our audience to hear a little bit more about the possibility that there were these giant cities in the Amazon, that they were as big as London, multiple of them.
Absolutely.
And how they kept all of these people fed was through this soil called terra preta.
Terra preta, Black Earth.
Can you explain that?
One of the problems with hosting large populations in a rainforest is that rainforests are actually, despite their exuberance, are not particularly fertile soils. The fertility of the soil is caused by the fall of leaves and the decaying of vegetation. But if you remove the trees within a relatively short time, the soil will become infertile. Terra preta, sometimes known as the Black Earth, is a man-made soil. Human beings invented it, and the earliest so far found. But remember, so little study has been done in the Amazon.
So we don't even know for sure.
Say again?
We don't know for sure that if this hasn't been around previously.
We don't know, but what we do know is it's been around at least 9,000 years. I believe it's been around a lot longer than that. People found a way to make the Amazon productive for human beings in two ways. First of all, by inventing this soil, which is still sought after today by anybody seeking to settle and create agriculture in the Amazon. They can find patches of terra preta. They're going to be able to grow anything they need to grow. It's self-replicating soil. It's full of bacteria and organisms that create its fertility. It's quite a miracle of human creation, and that is the scientific work of the Amazonian peoples, and it's at least 9,000 years old. And goodness knows what else remains to be discovered there. So that's the first point. The second point is that, and a lot of people don't realize, is that the Amazon itself is a man-made ecosystem. It is designed to serve the interests of human beings. If you look at what are called the hyperdominant trees in the Amazon, they are all trees that produce foods that are needed by human beings. And other trees that are not useful to human beings are much less present in the Amazon. So the whole thing was created to serve humanity and human beings who lived in balance with their ecosystem up until the time of the Spanish conquest. Again, this is a science, like all sciences everywhere, that ultimately, if you trace it back far enough, you're going to find it emerged out of shamanism and about shamanistic curiosity about the nature of reality and the nature of the universe. We talked in the last episode about ayahuasca.
Right.
Very powerful visionary brew. Ayahuasca is also a work of science that was the creation of the indigenous peoples of the Amazon, who I think we must recognize as a civilization in every possible way.
If not advanced, I mean, it's pretty advanced.
I think we need to recognize them as an advanced civilization. We just need to redefine what we describe as advanced.
Yeah, I think that's where people
advanced isn't necessarily motor cars and airplanes and plastic. There's lots of ways to be advanced. And in the case of the Amazon, ayahuasca, highly effective visionary brew, is only possible. It's important for viewers to understand that dimethyltryptamine, DMT, probably the most powerful psychedelic known to science, is not normally orally accessible. That's why people smoke it or vape it. But what they found in the Amazon was a way to make it orally accessible. And that's because the leaves of the chacruna plant contain DMT, pure DMT. But you can't have a trip if you consume or drink a tea made from those leaves, because of an enzyme in the gut called monoamine oxidase, which switches off the DMT complex. So therefore you need a monoamine oxidase inhibitor. Now this is a scientific pursuit.
Right.
You need a monoamine oxidase inhibitor in the brew, which is going to shut down that enzyme in the gut and allow the DMT to be absorbed orally. That's what they found. That's what they discovered in the Amazon. God knows how long. Thousands and thousands of years ago, for sure. Thousands of years ago. And it's an extraordinary achievement when you consider the 100,000 plus different species of plants and trees that exist in the Amazon. To do that solely by trial and error, to put together the most powerful hallucinogen known to science. I don't like that word. The most powerful psychedelic known to science. To put it together with a monoamine oxidase inhibitor in, I have to admit, a foul-tasting brew, and enable visions to take place, which in Amazonian society and indigenous society are seen as valuable information. We've been taught to trivialize visionary experiences and regard them as some kind of nonsense. But all those archaeologists who think that I attack indigenous societies in some way, which I never do, I have the highest respect for indigenous cultures, they're not recognizing the science that is present in those cultures, the advanced nature of the science. The discovery of ayahuasca is an extraordinary achievement in itself, and then the realization that ayahuasca has useful teachings to bring to us, which Western science dismisses entirely, but which is fundamental to Amazonian civilization, is the second most important thing. So they create a brew, and that brew allows us to gain access to knowledge that would not otherwise be available to us. Sometimes quite practical knowledge. Shamans will use the altered state of consciousness.
Thanks for being here, Toad. The post Flex 181.
That they wish to hunt are consequences. They will leave their work, go up into the astral and look down on this place, and then they'll come back and think, well, that's where we need to go to hunt. So it's used for practical purposes as well as spiritual purposes. So the question of the cities.
That was loud. We're so close to number 200. I know, man. Thank you, buddy. Knock on wood. Thank you, my man. Thank you, buddy. Because of you, man. Because of you.
1540s.
No homo. Not there's anything wrong with being gay, but
the conquest of
because of you, man.
began.
You did a lot today.
A little longer after the conquest of Mexico. He didn't do it as an exploration. It wasn't his intention to explore. He was with 20 other guards, and their intention was to go hunting for a day and to bring back food for the rest of their team. They went off in a launch, a small boat on the Amazon River. And the Amazon wouldn't let them go. It just carried them ever eastwards until after a year they finally came out in the Atlantic Ocean. They started off on the Pacific side. They came out in the Atlantic. And on the way, yes.
Really good stream. Did a lot.
Sophisticated with advanced
We did a lot.
Highly popular. Within 100 years, other Spaniards were in there exploring. They couldn't find the city. So they said, you must have made it.
Toad, I'm proud
That's
of
what
you
academia continued to say.
for
Until the
working hard to find that place. Once you find it, you'll feel so good.
Those cities, those
Also, if you have a credit card, consider some places have cancellation 24 hours in advance. So just to make yourself feel better, if you find something that you're kind of happy with, you can at least reserve it and then cancel it. But I don't know how much. You got to make sure you do that with a respectable website and company and everything.
Once those populations were gone, they weren't able to keep the
I thought you're the man, do you know?
Entomb those cities. They're only being found now. So there's
And like
a
Expedia
whole
flight and hotel deals too.
awaiting us in the Amazon. I'm very glad that some teams of archaeologists are now beginning to do really exciting work in the Amazon, and I'm closely in contact with those teams. And I think we're going to get.
If Farm Boy's on, we're probably gonna raid him. If he's not,
Well, and just the fact that they're still uncontacted.
he is. Look at this guy.
They're still uncontacted tribe. Yeah,
that are living.
That's absolutely right. The Amazon is the last preserved.
He's going down the
not really
the bunker essay rabbit hole, man.
Western industrial civilization.
Thanks for being here, man.
They don't want it.
Can't believe we're close to. I can't believe you're close to going to Vegas, my man. A legend, bro.
They know.
It'll be worth it, man.
I've talked. To
Sorry, I just doxed you. Sorry. Anyways, peace.
They see the doom of mankind in the behavior of Western technological civilization. When I say Western, I'm including Russia and China as well. These are all technological, following the technological model where tech is the answer to everything. You know, and it's all about production and consumption and no connection to spirit. They see that as the slippery slope that will lead us on the road to ruin. So you know we have much to learn from Amazonian civilization and from the lost past of humanity that is hidden in the Amazon and that is only now beginning to be revealed. Already one phenomenon are these huge geometrical enclosures that are being found in the Amazon. They're earthworks. Now I don't know if you've been to England before, but in England